I know earlier than billed. Yes, it's 3 o'clock. I'm Nana Akua. This is GB News on TV, online and on digital radio. And for the next 3 hours, yes, it is 3 in the show, me and my panel will be taking on some of the big topics hitting the headlines right now. This show is all about opinion. It's mine, it's theirs, and of course it's yours. We'll be debating, discussing, and at times we will disagree, but no one will be cancelled. So joining me today, it's Albi Amankona. Also, broadcaster and columnist Lizzie Cundy, and also former Labour MP for Ealing North, Stephen Pound.
Hello.
Yes. And also joining me down the line is Fraser Myers and also Christine Hamilton. Right, before we get started, let's get your latest news headlines.
Nana, thank you. This is the latest from the GB newsroom. Protesters have clashed again with police in Paris as a vigil was being held at a Kurdish cultural centre where a gunman killed a woman and 2 men and left several others injured. Police used tear gas to disperse the crowd. It's after riots broke out yesterday in the wake of the attack. Members of the community have been gathering this morning close to where the incident happened. A 69-year-old man who was already known to police is in custody in relation to the shooting. Paris-based columnist for The Telegraph, Anne-Elisabeth Moutet, told GB News the perpetrator doesn't fit the terrorist portrait.
69 years old. He's a former metro driver. He lived in a flat alone in the center of Paris. His own 90-year-old father says that he's crazy. He collected guns and managed to get some in France where the gun laws are very strict. And he came out of 1 year time in jail only 2 weeks ago, and that was already for attacking a camp of migrants. So all of this points to a racist murder.
Families driving home for the festive period face travel disruption with severe traffic on the roads due to train strikes today. Travellers heading abroad are also being warned of delays as Border Force officials walk out for a second day. Disruption at UK airports was brought under control yesterday as the military stepped in to replace workers on strike. Meanwhile, Scotland's rail operators warning strikes starting today will severely limit services, with people being advised to only travel if absolutely necessary. Meanwhile, there's disruption to Christmas deliveries for many as postal workers represented by the Communication Workers Union continue to walk off the job over pay, jobs and conditions. Royal Mail employees began their industrial action on Friday ahead of Christmas. The acting General Secretary of the CWU told GB News he hopes the action will help the mail service strive in the future.
Members are very angry about the way they're being treated by Royal Mail. People don't take strike action lightly. People don't want to lose pay. They want to actually be at work serving the customer. But the overwhelming massive feedback from the customer is they support their postie, they support their Royal Mail workers. They understand that the strikes is not just about being greedy, it's about actually having a future service and ensuring this great Royal Mail service that's been there for 500 years can continue to thrive and grow in the future.
Ukrainian authorities say a Russian strike on the southern city Kherson has killed at least 7 people and wounded almost 60. Kyiv says Moscow carried out the attack for pleasure. President Volodymyr Zelensky published photos showing burning cars on the streets, smashed windows and bodies. Russia denies targeting civilians. GB News is unable to independently verify the reports from Kherson. Now, at least 19 people are thought to have died as a heavy storm sweeps across parts of the US. A number of fatalities have involved road traffic accidents, including a pile-up in Ohio that reportedly killed at least 2 motorists. Several were also injured. Temperatures plunged as low as minus 45 degrees in some areas, with around 200 million people under weather warnings. The storm is forecast to develop into what's being described as a bomb cyclone, bringing with it heavy, blinding snow. And back here, forecasters are predicting a white Christmas for the Highlands with unsettled weather for the rest of the UK. The Met Office has put a yellow warning for snow and ice in place for most of the Highlands, running from tomorrow night until 6 p.m. on Boxing Day. Meanwhile, downpours are forecast in most other places over the Christmas weekend. The Environment Agency has issued 66 alerts for possible flooding in England. And the NHS is warning parents about the risks of swallowing toy parts, as an increase has seen more children admitted to hospital. The latest data shows the number of children having consumed a small object has doubled over the last 10 years to almost 230. Doctors are concerned about the penny-sized batteries that make up a part of several household art items like festive lights and TV remotes. This is GB News. We'll bring you more news as it happens. Now it's back to Nana.
Good afternoon. It's just fast approaching 6 minutes after 3 o'clock. This is GB News on TV, online and on digital radio. Welcome to you. It's Christmas Eve. Can you believe it? I can't believe how quickly this year has gone. I'm Nana Akua, and joining me today to bring you some of the latest festive cheer, my panel. We'll also sink our teeth into some of the difficult topics. We always like a good old scrap. So here's what else is coming up today. So for the Great British Debate this hour, I'm asking, has Keir Starmer shot himself in the foot by following the SNP's lead on gender recognition? Now, this comes as Nicola Sturgeon, you know how my mother feels about her. I just can't stand that woman. Nicola Sturgeon railroads her divisive Gender Recognition Act through the Scottish Parliament, and now the Telegraph reports that Keir Starmer would also do the same under a Labour government. Is he mad? This is the same man who wouldn't say what a woman is or couldn't tell you whether a woman has a penis or not. So it's extremely worrying. We'll be exploring what Christmas means in 2022 as well, and discussing charity, goodwill and giving back to your community with Sue Brett of the Brett Foundation. And the Great British Getaway will be looking at travel conditions, as many across the country will be travelling to spend time with loved ones battling the weather and indeed the strikes. I mean, if you were trying to get abroad there, was it the army that took over? Apparently they did such a good job, they did better than Border Force. That didn't work out well, did it?
For half the money.
Well, yes, exactly, and they can't go on strike. And the public aren't actually the only ones travelling today. We'll keep you up to date with our Santa tracker as Father Christmas faces his busiest day of the year. All of that on the way throughout the hour, and I'll be joined by my panel to keep you company. As ever, there he is, Dr. Father Christmas. We can find out what he's doing now. Yes, well, tell me everything you want to chat to. So you can email gbviews@gbnews.uk or tweet me at gbnews. So welcome again to my panel broadcaster, Lizzie Cundy, also Albie Amonkona and Stephen Pound. I had to remember all of that. Right, starting off this afternoon, though, let's start with Prime Minister Rishi Sunak, who seems to be disappearing, slithering behind things. I mean, he's gone past the desk again. He's so small, you never see him. No, but seriously, I mean, where's he?
He might be here for all you know.
He could be.
He's behind you.
Oh, look, I've just seen some Prada shoes.
On his sliders.
On his little sledge. No, seriously, Rishi Sunak has used his Christmas message to thank public servants. Let's have a listen. Here he is.
Thanks a lot, but no.
Hello.
Hi, is that Chris?
Yes, Ethan. Hi there.
Hi, Chris, it's Rishi Sunak. How are you?
What? Hello? Oh my God.
I'm British Prime Minister. I thought we'd give you a call to say thank you, Sharon, for an incredible job that you've done.
It's such a big surprise.
Because I know you've played a really important role in helping provide support during the flooding that's happened recently, and you did some extraordinary things.
Thank you, Rishi, for giving me this opportunity, and being honest, this appreciation means a lot and has taken me by a complete surprise as well.
What you do is fantastic. It makes a big difference to some people who need that extra bit of help. You know, we're delighted to fund work like yours, and you know, particularly this time of year, as I said, it makes a big difference. So I just wanted to call and say thank you to you for that.
Honestly, it means so much to me to get that feedback, and it really does. And I hope you have a lovely Christmas, your family too, and everyone else. And yeah, thank you again. Like I said, just in such shock, but yeah, really appreciate it.
Thanks, Chris. Take care. Have a great Christmas.
Finds out that Rishi reversed the charges.
Well, do you know what? The thing is he's talking to someone in Islamabad, then he's talking to somebody about food packages, I think. I mean, what would be nice if he could just talk to us?
Yeah.
I haven't heard from him for a
deal
while.
with some of the problems we've got and start doing all
Have you
these
seen his
video
Christmas
messages.
card, though? You got it, didn't you?
What Rishi's Christmas
Yeah, Rishi's
card?
Christmas card.
I didn't get it.
Oh, you amaze me. Oh, it'll probably arrive. But it's the family
We're
gathered
probably by
round...
Royal Mail.
Yeah, it doesn't get there till February.
You're royal, but you may not be male unless you're in Scotland. But anyway, the point being that he's got a big mixing bowl, and he's got his two daughters there looking cute next to it, and his wife looking cute, and him looking cute. And they're tipping a bottle of something into the mix. Now, they are famously teetotal. I want to know what GB News is doing to discover what's in the bottle. Is he a secret boozer? Is there possibly a bottle of something intoxicating on the side?
No, he's too slick, isn't he?
Well, he
Rishi?
doesn't drink, does he?
He doesn't drink.
No, he doesn't drink. He's called himself a Coke addict, but to Coca-Cola, not the illicit kind. But in terms of this actual message, I think this is quite a nice message, because normally Prime Ministers do quite an impersonal public message on Christmas Eve. But of course, what Rishi Sunak is doing is he's calling up people personally, public servants helping abroad in Islamabad and Pakistan because of the flooding, also at home. And you heard the sound, the delight of those people to receive a call from the Prime Minister. I think it was quite special for them. I think it's a nice thing. But I just want to know where my call was. I would have loved to have got a call from Rishi Sunak.
Well, if you thought it was going to be on the telly, you'd do it. It's all so planned. It's like a Rick Astley video. It's all like smooth and.
But is it a bit harsh? England have just beaten Pakistan 3-0 in the Test series. First time it's ever happened. And he's just ringing up saying, "Oh, I'm not gloating, but hey, thanks ever so much for what you did."
I'm sorry, we've got so many problems here at the minute. How about we get on with those?
Well, I just don't understand. He's being so jocular about it. I understand it is Christmas, but you'd think that actually...
Not in Pakistan, it's not.
Yeah, but he could start talking to us. I mean, like, I don't remember when he addressed the public. When was the last time he did a proper public address to us?
He did one on the lectern outside 10 Downing Street.
When was that?
And that was about 2 months ago, wasn't it?
Yeah.
So he's lasted.
Well, now he's gone missing.
Well, let's have a quick look at the... following this... let's have a look at this. Let's see, what about the leader of the opposition, this Keir Starmer? Because he's used this Christmas message to reflect on those people who are struggling.
For so many people in Britain, life is tough at the moment. But Christmas is a reminder that we will endure, that things will get better. The Christian account of Jesus' life is a poignant reminder that no matter how much we struggle and how much we are tested, love, hope and faith will always be the lights that guide us through. I will be keeping in my heart all those who are working to keep us safe, those looking after the less fortunate, and our friends in Ukraine facing the horror of Putin's appalling attacks. Their struggle for freedom inspires us all. Christmas has always been a time of rest and reflection, as well as one of celebration. After the year that we've had, we all deserve that. So, however you're spending this time, wherever you are, I wish you and your loved ones a very happy Christmas.
Oh, come on, that was brilliant. That was like a cross. No. Yeah, I'm sorry, wake up.
I'd rather watch paint dry.
The music in the background as well, it was like something hypnotic. You know, like when a snake comes out of one of those baskets, it was like that sort of hypnotic.
No, it wasn't. That was like a cross between Churchill and Pope Francis. I mean, I have to say, that was brilliant. And for him to actually go out there with a Christian message at this time of year, you know, I bet there were people in his office saying, we don't do religion, we don't do God. And he's gone ahead and done it. Fair play to him. And he talked about the issues that affect us today. Well, you know, not somebody on flood relief work.
Well, yeah, but does he sit? We don't know where Keir Starmer sits. What's he doing with the strikes?
Well,
is
we
he
know
going
where
on the
he
picket
sits
line?
with
No
regard to
idea.
women, though, doesn't he?
He doesn't know what a woman is.
He doesn't know what a woman is, and he's also going along with that bonkers legislation, which I think is crazy.
Well, no, hang on a sec. That's what the Telegraph say. That's not been sourced. Well, at the moment, the big issue is whether the legislation, which is eccentric to put it mildly, that's going through Holyrood, you know, whether this can possibly be vetoed in Westminster. Now, there's a certain school of thought that says if we did that in Westminster, it would just simply enrage them even more.
Well, what do you think? Should it be vetoed in Westminster?
I don't think. I think it should be destroyed in Scotland. It's insane, it's bonkers, and it's going to affect people in Scotland. The idea that there's going to be floods of people pouring over the border at the age of 16, I don't think
Well,
that's
I
going to
think you
happen.
might find that could be the case. People can self-identify there, then come back as a different, as a male or female opposite.
Well, the question is, would it be valid in GB?
Westminster has to overrule this ludicrous.
Well, let's bring on our other two panellists. I've also got Christine Hamilton and Fraser Myers. Hello, both. You all right? Christine, your hair looks fabulous. Have you had your hair done, Christine? That looks nice. So what do you think of this, Christine? I'm going to start with you. What do you think? These Christmas messages, Rishi Sunak, and then obviously Keir Starmer. What was your take on both those?
Well, I couldn't agree with you more. Where is Rishi? Where is Rishi? He did, by the way, let's be fair to Rishi, he did write an article in a national newspaper last week. I mean, I know he did because I saw it briefly. So he has done that. But where is he? Why isn't he giving us a Christmas message? I thought that was all a bit staged. Starmer was so wooden. I mean, it was incredible. Incredible. I mean, can he read an auto cue? No, not convincingly he can't, except he makes it sound as though he is reading an auto cue. So I didn't think much of either of those, really. And honestly, as for him endorsing Nicola Sturgeon's ridiculous latest nonsense, my view on Starmer had been that as long he's, 50% of people apparently think he's going to be Prime Minister at the next election. If he sits tight, doesn't rock the boat, keeps the lefties under the covers, he should be, he's set fair. I mean, there's a lot can happen, but he could be set fair. If he is going to start embracing ludicrous nonsense like that, then I think it makes it even less likely. So come on, Keir, do it. Bring it on. It'll make him less likely.
Yeah. This is why he's kept quiet. We all wanted him to come out with some policies, and the ones that he'd come out with, first of all, private schools are getting rid of the forcing them to pay VAT, which is just nonsense. And then this next one about, it's unbelievable. Fraser, what's your take on these speeches?
I wouldn't want to be caught up in a conversation with Rishi Sunak, caught out off guard by that. And I wouldn't want to be caught up in a conversation with Keir Starmer either. I mean, it's interesting how he's trying to present himself as this kind of patriot. He often does this. He'll often be seen with the flag nowadays to contrast himself with Corbyn. He talked about the Christian message there. But, as you've pointed to, as soon as an issue like trans comes up, his true colours come out. He can't hold the line against the woke for 1 second. I mean, this is a totally unforced error. Everyone with 2 brain cells knows that Nicola Sturgeon's reforms are absolutely crazy, going to pose real dangers for women, real dangers for children. It's essentially placing, the feelings of sex offenders over women's safety. I mean, it's just an extraordinary piece of legislation. And for Starmer to, not come out, he should have come out all guns blazing against it. He should have said, this is something a Labour government will never consider. Instead, he's just far too soft on this issue.
Well, perhaps it's because he didn't work out whether women have a penis or not. And then he realised, because he didn't know what a woman was, that he couldn't then sort of do an about turn, because that would look a bit silly.
That's the new question that's, politicians didn't used to be wanted to ask. They used to hate being asked, what's the price of a pint of milk? That used to be the thing that caught them out. Now it's, does a woman have a penis? And you think you could at least prepare an answer to that. It's no, by the way. But why is he not capable of saying that?
I just don't know.
That is a much easier question than what is the price of a pint of milk, because the answer to that is it depends where you buy it. There is no such thing as the price of a pint of milk, but there is such a thing as does a woman have a penis, and the answer is no. Perhaps he doesn't know what a penis is. That's what
well, we could ask him. I mean, we probably wouldn't be able to answer that either. I know what he should have done. Because we really wanted him to tell us some policies that they were going to sort of give us. But this is just so cack-handed. They haven't told us anything decent. And he's gone down the avenue of identity politics. I mean, even with the strikes and the trade unions, he's sort of stayed on the fence on that one as well. I mean, do you think that he has a chance? Because people are saying that they think he will be... Labour are talking as though they're in. I mean, what do you think, Fraser? Do you think that they actually have... Do you think that it's a guarantee, as everyone seems to be saying?
Well, no, nothing is given in politics, but I think you'd be foolish to bet against them. I mean, purely by default, the Tories have made such a mess of the economy. No one trusts them to get us out of this hole. But by contrast, what ideas do Labour have? He really should be keeping quiet about anything controversial, especially if he has nothing interesting to say. And I've seen no evidence that he has any good ideas for the current moment.
Well, last word to you, Christine, on this one.
Well, he's in a bit of a cleft stick with with the strikers, isn't he? That takes me back to the 70s when it was the miners challenging the government, who rules Britain. Now it's everybody. He's in a cleft stick there because, of course, the unions are their paymasters. So it is quite a tricky situation for him. If he backs them, he's in trouble with an awful lot of people. And if he doesn't back them, he's in trouble with his paymasters. So, one can't envy that position. But when he had no chance of being Prime Minister, it didn't matter what he said. Now he feels everything's in the balance and he jolly well could do it. He's got to weigh what he does, which is why it makes this Nicola Sturgeon endorsement his endorsement of Nicola Sturgeon all the more extraordinary and to me inexplicable.
Almost ridiculous. I don't know why he's done it. Christine and Fraser, thank you so much. Of course, they'll be with you throughout the show. Coming up, our Great British Debate this hour, and I'm asking, has Sir Keir Starmer shot himself in the foot by following Sturgeon's lead on gender reform? Send me your thoughts. Email gbviews@gbnews.uk. Tell me what you think on everything we're discussing. You could also tweet me at GBNews, and I'm asking, has Keir Starmer shot himself in the foot by following Nicola Sturgeon's lead on gender reform? You're with me, I'm Nana Akua. This is GB News on TV, online and on digital radio, all the way through until 6. Stay with me, we've got loads still to come.
We are GB News, and we'd like to say thank you to each and every one of you for bringing us your conversations, for helping our great nation find its voice. We are here for you on radio, television, and online, across England, Scotland, Wales, and Northern Ireland.
It's not the BBC, you actually get your facts right.
We are proud to be GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi there, it's Stephen and Anne.
At breakfast from 6 a.m, you'll always be caught up with everything you need to know, the latest headlines, opinions and debates.
We'll bring you the good news and the bad, but most of all, we're here for you.
Remember, send in your views and let us know what you would like us to talk about.
That's because we're your news channel. And every morning at 6 a.m, it's breakfast on GB News.
Monday to Thursday on GB News, it's Bev Turner Today from 10 a.m. We're going to be here for you, our GB News family, to keep you up to date, but also make you smile.
The guy went from puberty to adultery.
And I can't wait to bring a few of my own opinions.
I have no time for cultural totalitarianism.
We'll engage in passionate, but always polite debate, with your thoughts and opinions at the centre of it all. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akua, Saturday and Sunday afternoons on GB News. Expect fiery debate and passionate discussion as me and my panel tackle some of the biggest topics hitting the headlines. It's a place for everyone's opinion. No one gets cancelled, but no one gets an easy ride.
Oh, she's on it today!
Be ready for conversations that are fierce, frank, and of course, fun. Every Saturday and Sunday afternoon from 4 p.m. on GB News, the People's Channel.
Join my show Farage, 7 p.m. till 8 p.m. Monday through Thursday, and there you will get opinion, analysis, debate, and I'll cover stories that nobody else dares to touch. You've been cancelled. Join the club. Oh my goodness me. And then for the last 15 minutes, talking pints. We're over a drink. We have a civilised conversation with someone. We very often disagree, but we do it in a grown-up way. Come and join me on Farage.
We are GB News, the People's Channel.
And right across the United Kingdom.
You can find us on Sky Channel 512.
Virgin Media Channel 604.
Freesat Channel 216.
Freeview Channel 236.
And YouView Channel 236.
You can also take us with you on DAB+ radio.
With the GB News app and at the website gbnews.uk.
We're absolutely everywhere.
Come join us on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Just coming up to 24 minutes after 3 o'clock. This is GB News on TV, online and on digital radio. We are the People's Channel and it is Christmas Eve. Christmas tomorrow. Yeah! It's time now, though, for our Great British Debate this hour. And I'm asking, has Sir Keir Starmer shot himself in the foot now by following Nicola Sturgeon's lead on gender reform? This past week has been dominated not only by strikes, yes, and Christmas preparations, but by intense debate at Holyrood over not how she's going to run the economy or how she's going to avoid Edinburgh or Glasgow, whichever one is being the murder capital or the drug capital of Europe. Oh, no. They're talking about gender reform, and in fact, it's the Gender Recognition Reform Bill, which has now been passed. The new rules actually lower the age that people can apply for gender recognition certificates to just 16, and also remove the need for medical diagnosis of gender dysphoria. So basically, any Tom, Dick or Harry can identify as a woman, and any can identify as...
Thomasina Harriet.
Thomasina Harriet. I don't know what their one is. So the Prime Minister said it would be responsible for the UK government to consider blocking new gender reforms in Scotland. But Sir Keir Starmer is following Nicola Sturgeon's footsteps, that is according to The Telegraph. Well, let's get stuck into this with my panel, Fraser Myers and also Christine Hamilton and Narinda Kerr. Narinda, welcome. You joined my other two panellists. Narinda, I'm going to start with you then. What do you think about this? I mean, this gender recognition, first of all, so people don't need to have a medical diagnosis. They can say that I'm a man or I'm a woman, irrespective of what gender they are, and they do not have to have a diagnosis of gender dysphoria, and they can do this earlier.
Well, I think Nana, you pointed out all the negatives, and I think Christine and your other panelists, everyone seems to be weaponising hostility towards trans people, and I think it's really sad. And I think trans people have become the new gay people that were the 20, 30, 40 years ago. Where you try and these trans women, they've been abused, they are hounded, they are attacked on the streets. I think it's new, but I think Keir Starmer, he would make me vote Labour if he did do this, because I think it's an amazing thing to make everyone feel included.
But why are they not included? They're just a trans woman instead of a woman, and they could have a trans space or a space that anyone can be, but women should have their own space. I mean, are you not concerned yourself personally? Let me finish. Let me ask
this bill has been passed in 13 other countries, and there's been no increase in any kind of rate.
Hang on 1 second, Narinda. Are you not concerned personally about this? Because, ultimately a man is much stronger than a woman. Are you not concerned?
No, I'm not concerned, and I have a daughter as well. I'm more concerned that this world is filled with such horrible people that you are actually just abusing and making trans people out to be these disgusting sexual predators. It's a horrible thing. It's the same that happened with gays 40, 50 years ago. You made out that they were sexual predators, and no, I'm not concerned. I think that a trans woman is a woman, and I think she's joining our movement and helping. She's not putting me at fear. Straight men put me at fear. I am more at risk of being raped by a straight heterosexual man.
But he can't go into your space, though. Christine?
Well, I think, I take Narinda's point, but I think it's wrong. It's yet another example of the tail wagging the dog. I mean, the number of trans people in this country is infinitesimally small. And yet again, we are adjusting everything for their benefit. Nobody is saying that all trans people are potential rapists. Nobody is saying that at all. And I know when you're quite right, many years ago, decades ago, gay people had similar prejudice against them, which was appalling. And we have largely come through that. But even so, it's as I say, it's the tail wagging the dog. And I think this latest legislation in Scotland is completely extraordinary. I honestly don't know what Sturgeon thinks she's doing. I cannot believe that represents the view of the average Scot.
No, I don't think it does.
And what I worry about is that while all these changes are being made, the people who are really suffering are women. And by women, I mean people like me and Nana and you. Women, I don't regard trans women as women. They are trans women. What's wrong with being a trans woman? I mean, what's wrong with it? Why do they have to be
Because you're labelling a woman. We don't need to label them. They're women. Don't label them, because once you label them, you put them up to be abused, attacked, and just hounded. We don't need to label people. I don't say that's my gay friend. I say that's my friend. I don't say that's my trans friend. I say that's my friend.
Narinda, it's not a label. It's a definition. You're a trans woman. You're not a woman. Fraser.
Well, Christine is right to say it doesn't have the backing of the Scottish people. Lots of polling has been done on this. About 2/3 of people are against every single aspect of this bill. They're against lowering the age at which you can change gender to 16. They're against taking the medical diagnosis of gender dysphoria out of the question. And they're opposed to reducing the kind of waiting time. It's now been reduced from 2 years to 3 months in which you live in your so-called acquired gender. No, I really don't think this is about demonising trans people. It's about recognising that there are differences between men and women, and that it's appropriate to have certain boundaries in certain situations. In most 80% of life, it really doesn't matter whether someone is a man or a woman in a certain room. But in spaces like prisons, in spaces like rape crisis centres, in places like hospitals and changing rooms, women at least have a right to privacy as well, not just safety. And I think it's important to recognise that in terms of, if we're talking about sex offenders, this is already happening, even without the law. It's already the case.
Where it is happening. This bill has been passed in 13 countries, and there's been no rise in the percentage of risk to women. I'm more at risk from a heterosexual man than a trans woman. Why are you ripping a page? Why?
Because there are more.
The thing, this is important because what will happen in Scotland, what you'll soon see, is that because the trans people that do go on to commit rape, or maybe they are just men, they could be pretending to be trans. Who knows? How can you look into someone's soul and say which is right? They will simply be recorded as women committing rape. They're not going to be recorded as trans offenders. They legally are treated exactly the same as women. So that in and of itself, it actually abolishes, it gets rid of our capacity to even notice that there's a problem.
Yeah, and also, isn't it that only a man can rape a woman? Isn't that it's because of the? I thought that was the fact. I thought that was one of the things. So a woman can't rape a woman. I thought that was, or there's some legislation.
In UK law, that's right. You have to have a penis for rape.
So therefore, if the trans woman rapes a woman, that's not rape because he is a woman. So there's complications, Narinder. Are you not concerned at the complications, for example, those? And what about complications, say, in women's prisons then? Are you happy for a trans woman to be in a women's prison?
Yes, I'm very happy about that. I will feel very safe if there's a trans woman or a woman who is with me. I'm more at risk from a heterosexual male than I am from a trans woman. There's the most marginalised minority in society, and you're worried about the most marginalised minority. Why? No, I'm not worried. I welcome them, and I welcome them as women to womanhood.
Christine.
Yeah, well, you're not in prison, as far as I'm aware. So if you were in
It's a good signal.
Maybe one day.
Should trans women be put into women's prisons? And you then talked about you were more at risk at rape with men. So all I'm saying is there's nothing. Your answer has nothing to do with prison.
But you're talking about a prison. It's a very small thing for a bill to be passed.
Narinder, let Christine.
Women, whether they're in a prison or a rape crisis centre, or frankly in a changing room or in a hospital bed, they are entitled to be, if they want to be, in a women-only space. And if they want to be treated by women, they should be treated by women, in my opinion. I know that's difficult with the health service at the moment because the whole thing's so difficult anyway, but I think women have an entitlement to be treated by women if they want to, not by a trans woman or a man.
Narinder Kaur, thank you very much. Christine Hamilton and Fraser Myers, good to talk to you. This is GB News. I'm Nana Akua. We're live on TV, online and on digital radio. On the way, we'll continue with the Great British Debate this hour. I'm asking, has Sir Keir Starmer shot himself in the foot by following Nicola Sturgeon's lead on gender recognition? You'll hear the thoughts of my panel, Albi Amankona, Lizzie Cundy, and also former Labour MP for Ealing North, Stephen Pound. And also Fraser Myers and Christine Hamilton will be joining me down the line as well. And then later on in the show, we'll have plenty of festive fun over Christmas Eve. Loads of things still to come. Stay with me, but first, let's get your latest news headlines.
Nana, thank you. This is the latest from the GB newsroom. Protesters have clashed again with police in Paris as a vigil was being held at a Kurdish cultural centre where a gunman killed a woman and 2 men and left several others injured. Police used tear gas to disperse the crowd. It's after riots broke out yesterday in the wake of the attack. Members of the community have been gathering this morning close to where the incident happened. A 69-year-old man who was already known to police is in custody in relation to the shooting. Families driving home for the festive period face travel disruption with severe traffic on the roads due to train strikes today. Travellers heading abroad are also being warned of delays as Border Force officials walk out for a second day. Disruption at UK airports was brought under control yesterday as the military stepped in to replace workers on strike. Meanwhile, Scotland's rail operators warning strikes starting today will severely limit services, with people being advised to only travel if absolutely necessary. Meanwhile, there's disruption to Christmas deliveries for many as postal workers represented by the Communication Workers Union continue to walk off the job over paid jobs and conditions. Royal Mail employees began their industrial action on Friday ahead of Christmas. Ukrainian authorities say a Russian strike on the southern city Kherson has killed at least 7 people and wounded almost 60. Kyiv says Moscow carried out the attack for pleasure. President Volodymyr Zelensky published photos showing burning cars on the streets, smashed windows and bodies. Russia denies targeting civilians. Well, GB News is unable to independently verify the reports from Kherson. And forecasters are predicting a white Christmas for the Highlands with unsettled weather for the rest of the UK. The Met Office has put a yellow warning for snow and ice in place for most of the Highlands, running from tomorrow night until 6 p.m. on Boxing Day. Meanwhile, downpours are forecast in most other places over the Christmas weekend. The Environment Agency has issued 66 alerts for possible flooding in England. TV, online and DAB+ radio. This is GB News.
Monday to Thursday, 9 p.m. till 11 p.m. Join me, Dan Wootton. I'll bring you the sharpest takes and hottest debates. Do you not believe in prisons?
I don't believe in prisons.
I'm completely stunned. I guarantee you there'll be no spin, no bias, no censorship.
I actually was personally quite offended by it.
And no reason to go to bed. So I guess they've always been quite woke. That's Dan Wootton tonight on TV, radio and online. Monday to Thursday from 9 p.m. till 11 p.m. on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Every morning from 6 o'clock, we'll wake you up with GB News Breakfast with all the stories you didn't know from the night before.
So whether it's serious news, entertainment or your own views from all over our great nation, we're here to kick off your day with a smile.
The national media should be reflecting and reporting what's happening here. You will notice the northwestern accents.
Whether you're with us on TV, radio or online, every morning, it's breakfast from 6 a.m. Hope you can join us.
Join me every Sunday at 6 p.m. for Gloria Meets. In exclusive interviews, I'll be finding out who our politicians really are and what they really think.
It's something that you would never want anyone to suffer.
I didn't know what channels there were. B, I didn't think I'd be believed.
I must have weighed about 7 stone and I'm 5'8".
My instincts was to sort of cover this up. I mean, clearly that was a mistake.
Join me every Sunday at 6 p.m. on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hello there, it's Eamon Holmes here from Breakfast on GB News. We're not just on your television and your screens, you know.
We're on DAB plus digital radio, so you can listen to your favourite shows on the move.
If you've not yet listened to GB News Radio, it's very simple. We're on your radio player and TuneIn apps, on your smart speaker, phone or tablet, or online at gbnews.uk.
Take us with you wherever you go. GB News Radio.
You never have to miss a moment of the People's Channel.
My name's Tom Harwood and join me 9:30 a.m. every weekday for The Briefing, your one-stop shop for everything you need to know about what's going on in politics today.
I wonder if this is a deal that might need to be like the biscuits in this factory, twice baked.
Is there not an opportunity here to win out against the extremes?
Tom Harwood, GB News.
What are you going to do about it?
Things should have been done differently, and they certainly are being done differently.
Don't miss it. The Briefing with me, Tom Harwood, 9:30 Monday to Friday on GB News.
Hello, I'm Simon Evans. Join me on GB News for Headliners at 11 p.m, where I'll be joined by 2 of the country's top comedians as we take a look at tomorrow's newspapers tonight. If it's a big story, we'll be covering it, I guarantee, but we'll also have some fun along the way. That's GB News Headliners at 11 p.m. We won't put you to sleep, unlike some of the other paper review shows out there. So join us, 11 p.m, 7 nights a week.
Good afternoon. It's fast approaching 40 minutes after 4 o'clock. This is GB News on TV, online and on digital radio. You missed that. It's actually past 3 o'clock. But anyway, I'm Nana Akua. We are the People's Channel. I'm asking, has Sir Keir Starmer shot himself in the foot by following Nicola Sturgeon's lead on gender reform? As joining me today, it's my panel, Albie Amankona, also Lizzie Cundy, also Stephen Pound. Right, so I'm going to start with you, seeing as you're a Labour man.
Yeah.
Go on then, has he shot himself in the
No,
foot?
of course he has. Look. First, I never thought I'd be spending Christmas Eve discussing meat and two veg in quite this much detail. But look, let's actually get serious what we're talking about here. There are people like, I remember, like April Ashley, like Jan Morris, who were quite clearly women who were born as men, and they transitioned, and I think nobody could object to it. When I was branch secretary of the union, I remember one of the cooks called George came in and said, I want a new union card, his name was Julia. Absolutely no issue there. But what's different in those cases is that they were 18 or 21 when they made the decision. Now, when Christine talked about wards, most of the wards in the health service in this country are mixed sex anyway. That's not really an issue. But the issue about being understanding for people.
Most wards are mixed sex.
Of course they are.
In hospitals.
Oh yeah. Yeah. The only people who can demand to have a woman, if you're a very strict Muslim, certainly around my way, West London, you can demand to have a woman doctor. Otherwise, the single-sex wards are
But if
gone.
it's single-sex wards, okay, and somebody identifies as a woman and they're trans woman, they can be in your ward.
This is exactly.
So that's it. That's the problem.
Actually, there's a prison then. Sorry, Bronzefield, a big women's prison. And although I'm no longer an MP, I still keep in touch with some of my constituents, many of whom happen to be detained at Her Majesty's pleasure. And one of the women I went to see in Bronzefield, about 2 months ago, says that there's about 8 men in there who say, I'm a woman. And like it or not, and you can have, I understand where Narinder Kaur's coming from, and she's being sort of very inclusive, and I can understand that. But these are ordinary women who are in prison, in most cases, for silly things like not paying your TV licence. And they are flipping terrified because there's some 6'2" person in the showers who says, I am a woman, when they're demonstrably not. Now, look, Keir Starmer has not said he would follow Nicola Sturgeon. That's a puff piece in the Telegraph today.
Yeah, but he hasn't, after seeing that, I mean, he would have read that, right? So he hasn't come out and denounced it.
Well, no, he's not going to denounce it.
Well, he would do if he didn't think it. He would come out and say, this...
Well, if it comes to the floor of the House...
When they come out with that, and then it ends up being the truth.
That's a slightly convoluted way of looking at it. It could end up on the floor of the House, and then we'll know where people stand. At the moment, I would be amazed if someone with a legal brain like Keir Starmer would not pick up on exactly the points. And I bet you get quoted.
Well, he couldn't work out whether a woman has a penis or not. You think somebody with a legal brain, as great as his brain is, would know that a woman doesn't have a penis? I mean, it's not that difficult. Is it difficult?
A woman is an adult female.
Stephen, how can you not say Keir Starmer hasn't shot himself in the foot? He has totally shot himself in the foot.
He hasn't.
And he gives advice on everything, responsible for nothing. And you know what? This is irresponsible. It's totally irresponsible, and it is eroding women's rights.
But what is the is here? Because we know what's happening in Holyrood. We do not know what's happening in Westminster. Keir Starmer has not said that he unequivocally or even equivocally supports what's happening in Holyrood. He's busy with all these huge constitutional changes, all these massive proposals that the Labour Party is preparing for the next government. He's quite busy dealing with the House of Lords voting age.
Well, you think he would be, but it sounds to me like he is supporting her, and he hasn't come out and said he isn't. And
I just tried to ring him, but unfortunately he's changed his number.
No, but I'm sorry, do you know that the front of your brain, it's called the frontal cortex, isn't fully developed until you're 25 years old? So this is where this is so dangerous, and this is why Sturgeon is not just an irritant annoyance, she is dangerous. And this is disgusting.
Well, Nicola Sturgeon cannot even command Holyrood on this at the moment. I think, was it you said about the tail wagging the dog? This is the Greens are actually making a running in Scotland, who are coalition partners. But it's not just the Tories. I mean, some of the Labour MSPs in Scotland are supporting this, and shame on them, because this is cruel towards women. And we've got to be supportive of women.
I think with the conversations about gender recognition reform, it's actually quite a boring conversation if we actually talk about the reforms which are going on. So in 2004, there was the Gender Recognition Act. Stephen, I don't know if at the time you voted for it, but you may remember that was put before the House and it passed, and that basically meant that for the first time you could legally change gender. And essentially what's happening now is they want to reform that legislation to essentially make it less bureaucratic. They want to demedicalise the process. They want to remove the requirement for the prescription of gender dysphoria, and they also want to lower the age. So actually, if we just talk about what the reforms are about rather than some of the problems that it brings, it's actually quite boring. And I think a lot of the questions around it do need to be listened to a lot more carefully. I think a lot of people on the pro-trans side of the argument are very dismissive of some of the problems to do with single-sex spaces and actually what it would mean for essentially everyone who wants to become the opposite gender to get that. But equally, what I would say is that the other side of the argument, the anti side of the argument is too easy to dismiss. The evidence that we've seen in countries like Argentina, France and Ireland, where they have passed similar gender recognition reform and they haven't had all the problems that a lot of people are saying that we would have in this country.
I think that this is a very unique situation. This country is very different to those countries. I don't think you're comparing things that are the same. And I just think that the mindset and mentality in this country, I just don't think that particular concept of a man being able to be identified as a woman that quickly, I think it's dangerous because there are plenty of people who are detransitioning now, having been through the transition process and literally railroaded into that. And I think that is more the issue, alongside obviously the things for women. But that's a big issue. At 16, you can say, OK, I'm a woman now, I'm deciding to be a woman. Would you be happy then? I mean, I don't know if you've got children, but if you've got like a teenager, would you be happy then for a 16-year-old teenage boy to be in the same dormitory as a 16-year-old teenage girl if he says he identifies as a woman? I mean, I just don't think...
And J.K. Rowling has even opened up domestic violence places for just women. And she's scared to even, look what's happened to her by speaking out. You're scared to speak out about this subject because of the backlash.
Well, listen, as ever, thank you very much for that. Well, I'll tell you what, listen, it's a big old thing, isn't it? Keep your thoughts coming. We'd love to get your views, GBviews at gbnews.uk, or tweet me at GBnews. Now, we always call Christmas the most wonderful time of the year, but it also be quite a tough time for loads of people, especially with this ghastly cost of living crisis and the ongoing economic uncertainty. Loads of people are increasingly relying on the support of charities and the goodwill of others to get by. So this brings me on to my next guest, Sue Brett. She's the founder of Brett Foundation, and that foundation helps to combat poverty and loneliness all year round through a clothes bank, a breakfast club and after-school clubs, and to name but a few things that the charity does. But it's especially important, a great lifeline during the holidays, so let's find out more. Hello, Sue, thank you so much for joining me. Tell us a bit about the foundation and what it's doing this Christmas.
Oh, gosh. Well, we've been busy already. We've been out giving out presents to families that aren't able to afford presents. We've given food vouchers out so families can go and buy their own food. We've given hampers. We've topped up people with their fuel so they can have heat and able to cook their meals over Christmas period. We've got a homeless Christmas Day meal tomorrow. Oh my gosh, literally, we've given decorations, you name it, anything that can make Christmas bearable and as normal as possible for people, we do.
It's such a great thing, and what the foundation does. How do people find out about it? Do you find that people know how to contact you? Because I actually, until today, hadn't actually heard of the foundation and didn't know what it did until I sort of looked it up.
Most of it's word of mouth. We do a lot of promoting the charity on Facebook, social media. I think because we're so small, it makes it easier that people, the services that know us are able to refer people to us and use us. I think there's always that worry that if we get too big, we're not going to be able to support people in the way that we want to support people. It's always a worry.
Yeah, no, I can imagine that would be a worry because obviously, now you say you're a small charity. Who can use you? Where are you located? How do people, if they want to get in touch, obviously, what catchment area do you cover? Or are you a national charity?
Well, basically, we're mainly Maidenhead, the Berkshire area, Maidenhead in Berkshire. But saying that, if somebody is referred to us from anywhere, we will never turn anybody away. So if you're in Birmingham, Scotland, Wales, and you can't access local services there and you need something, can you contact us? Then we will help. Never been very good at saying no to people if they come to us in need, because the hardest thing for anyone to do is to come forward and say, please, can you help me? I'm struggling.
Well, listen, Sue, it's really good to talk to you. Thank you very much. That's Sue Brett of the Brett Foundation. You can obviously look them up online. Right, well, panel. So what do you think? So talk to me about your Christmas then. Lizzie, what are you doing for Christmas?
Well, I am doing the cooking. I've got friends, and I've said after a few drinks in the pub in my local, if anyone hasn't got anywhere to go, they can come to my
Could you just give us the address?
Said that on
I should have got a bigger turkey. Yeah.
I know a few
it's
turkeys.
going to be an open doors, everyone's welcome kind of day tomorrow. Yeah, so I've got the boys in the morning and then friends later.
Oh, lovely.
Yes.
Albie, what are you doing?
So we're going to be having Christmas at my grandfather's house for the first time in a very long time. So he's recently had a lot of modifications done on his house because he's not very mobile anymore. So it'll be the first time he's been able to come downstairs in years. So we'll be having Christmas in the dining room for the first time with my grandfather in literally probably over a decade. So really excited about that.
Tell him to be careful on the stairs, for goodness sake.
Yes.
The emergency services are off.
We've actually got a lift built into the room. It goes from his bedroom straight down to the dining room.
Oh, that sounds
so it's going to be lovely. I'm really excited.
Good. That's I was always worried about him on the stairs. And Stephen, what about you? What are you doing?
Well, I'm free if you're around. But no, look, all around to Liz's, isn't it? Look, I am glorying. It's absolutely marvellous. The first post-COVID Christmas, a real post-COVID Christmas. So, got obviously church in the morning, family, overindulgence, go for a walk in the afternoon. Going to see a few people who actually, I mean, I don't know about the Brett Foundation, but there's a few people around my way who do our visit on Christmas Day. But it's going to be family, it's going to be fun, but above all, it's going to be, we're together now. We're no longer having to walk around with face masks.
Yeah.
It's a post-COVID Christmas.
Yes.
I think we could have a song there, couldn't we?
To be honest, it had its advantages. You didn't have to go and see family that you didn't want.
I quite like my family.
It's true.
My family may not really.
Very naughty.
And if you're spending it alone, then join me because I'll be alone at Christmas with you guys.
I'll tell you what, the offers are coming in now, thick and fast.
They are. I tell you, everyone's coming to mine.
Albie, what's your granddad feel about this?
Well, let's just. I want to find out where Father Christmas has got to because obviously, like my panel and producers, is having a rather busy afternoon. The North American Aerospace Defense Command, better known as NORAD, has been tracking Santa Claus since 1955, and millions of children and grown-ups avidly follow the progress. And I'm delighted to be joined by Lieutenant General Alan Pelletier. He's the Deputy Commander of the North American Aerospace Defense Command, live from Peterson Space Force Base in Colorado.
Kind of hope they
Hey, this is a busy time for you then, tracking Santa. How's it going?
It's going very well, Nana. Thanks very much for being with us today.
Now, so what are you doing then? Where is he now, and how can you tell where he's going? And
Right now we're tracking Santa on his merry trek around the world, currently over Thailand, having delivered over 1.5 billions of gifts to deserving kids around the world. And so how do we get there? We leverage numbers of sensors that we use on a daily basis to actually carry out a regular mission of monitoring the airspace around North America. So we use ground-based and air-based radar to track the big NORAD or the big Santa sleighs. And we use our space-based sensors to track the infrared signature of Rudolph Red-Nose.
That's very good, isn't it? Do you ever see him sort of go down off the sleigh, or we just see him in the air all the time?
I just hope Putin's not watching.
So you just really get the sense of the sleigh. Does it come in closer on his face or anything, or is it just that sort of wide shot of him in the air?
You want a close-up?
Yeah, sorry, I missed your question. You're coming in slightly broken.
Is there ever a close-up on Santa, or is it just that sort of shot in the air like that as he traverses different parts of the world?
Oh, we have close-up actually because of the radar and because of the satellites based the feed that we're leveraging. But we do get a very good close-up when he enters the airspace of North America. Because we're at that point, not only are our sensor operators going to be tracking his position, we're going to be launching some of our fighter aircraft that are on alert continuously around North America to go and welcome Santa to the sky of Canada and the U.S.
That's fabulous. So give us a rough time then. When's he going to be? What's his ETA to be over the United Kingdom?
Well, it's tough because we don't have Santa's flight plan, but traditionally we've seen Santa arriving over the UK around 11:30 at night. That's why we keep repeating to the kids out there, be in bed by 9 and keep the magic of Christmas alive. And you're going to wake up to a great surprise of having present probably under your trees or by the fireplace, depending on your traditions.
That's lovely, isn't it? Isn't that great? And do people just log in and watch, or do they don't call up, do they? What do they do? They just track it online?
A mix, actually, and we've evolved our missions over the years. We're fortunate now to actually leverage a number of social media. Just to give you an example, last year we had over 2 million of social media followers out of about a 4 billion people reach. And people are able to actually call us on 1-877-HI-NORAD, or they can follow us, follow Santa's track on noradsanta.org. They can also view Santa on YouTube, on Instagram, as well as on Facebook. So there's a number of ways to reach out, but the best way is to call us. And we've got a team of volunteers that is over 750 strong this year in our call center, and I'll be one of them in a few minutes, in order to actually take your calls and give you the positions of Santas.
Well, listen, aren't you wonderful? Thank you so much, Lieutenant General Alan Pelletier. He's the Deputy Commander of the North American Aerospace Defense Command, and he's live there from Peterson Space Force Base in Colorado, tracking Santa.
How exciting.
Isn't that exciting? It's great.
Oh, I'm going to have my stocking out, ready for Santa.
No.
Well, I hope you leave out a carrot, a mince pie, and a glass of sherry. But, particularly if we're all coming round to yours. But listen, what's slightly worrying me about this is a bit of a Star Trek fan. What's all this Space Force base? I mean, have the Americans got a Space Force? And, who's the enemy? I mean, what are they actually working on? I mean, are they, is there something that they know that we don't?
Probably.
Maybe. But, Christmas dinner's never been the same since Brexit. No Brussels.
Really?
They'll be sprouting out all afternoon.
Yeah. Well, I'm looking forward because I've got a box.
That one wanted stuffing. I can throw it.
I've got a box of Christmas crackers at home that obviously I'm going to just open up on my own and bring all the jokes in. It's sad, isn't it?
We'll be watching.
Oh, come on, there've been some decent Christmas crackers jokes this year.
I've got some expensive ones, actually. I've got some from Marxie's.
OK, what sort of peas ruin Christmas?
I don't know.
MPs.
And on that bombshell, stay with us. This is GB News. More to come in the next hour. I'll be asking...
More jokes.
...has lost its Christmas message, and it wouldn't be Christmas Eve, of course, without a good old-fashioned Christmas quiz. So don't go anywhere.
Monday to Thursday nights on GB News. At 6, it's Dubes & Co. 7 o'clock, Farage. At 8, join Mark Stein. And at 9, Dan Wootton Tonight, followed by Headliners. On TV, radio and online. This is GB News.
Here on GB News Live, we'll be keeping you in the picture, finding out what's happening across the country and finding out why it matters to you. We'll have the facts fast with our team of reporters and specialist correspondents. Wherever it's happening, we'll be there from 12 noon on TV, radio and online. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hello, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and you can join me every weekday 6 till 7 on Dubes & Kerr. Me and my panel will get stuck right into the day's events, and I can tell you, in fact, I can warn you, expect some robust debates, some strong opinions and perspectives from both sides of the fence. It's about you at home as well. I love to read out all of your comments, or at least as many as I can. So join me, Michelle Dewberry, Monday to Friday, 6 till 7 on Dubes & Kerr.
We are GB News, the People's Channel. Why not take us home with you by visiting the GB News shop at gbnews.store. You'll find all the official merchandise, a really good present actually for yourself, your friends or your family.
We ship across the UK mainland at no extra cost. GB News, the People's Channel.
I'm Mark White. As GB News Home and Security Editor, I cover those key issues that are so important to you. Our authorities, our communities doing all they can to combat violent crime. With the public services under unbearable strain, why are we still failing to control our borders? Defence, the first priority of any government, has been continually hollowed out. Can we trust our politicians to protect the armed forces? Join me, Mark White, on GB News.
We are GB News, right across the nation. You can get us on television, on radio, on digital. We're absolutely everywhere.
Amazing. You see, amazing.
You remind me of me in the European Parliament. But here's the most important bit. We are not part of the mainstream establishment. We think and speak just like you do. We are the People's Channel.
Magnificent. That's really, really thoughtful.
Come and join us on GB News, the People's News Channel.
My name is Andrew Doyle. Join me every Sunday evening at 7 p.m. for Free Speech Nation. This is a show where we address current affairs and news stories of the week with the help of two wonderful comedian panellists. I brought in comics because I want to give it a lighter edge, and also they work for less. See you there.
It's just gone 4 o'clock. Hello and welcome. This is GB News on TV, online and on digital radio. I'm Nana Akua. And for the next 2 hours, me and my panel will be taking on some of the big topics hitting the headlines right now. This show is all about opinion. It's mine, it's theirs, and of course it's yours. We'll be debating, discussing, and at times we will disagree, but no one will be cancelled. Joining me today is Conservative commentator Albi Ammon-Kona, columnist and broadcaster Lizzie Cundy, and also former Labour MP and of Ealing North, Stephen Pound. But before we get started, let's get your latest news headlines.
Nana, thank you. It's 4 o'clock. This is the latest from the GB newsroom. Protesters have clashed again with police in Paris as a vigil was being held at a Kurdish cultural centre where a gunman killed a woman and 2 men and left several others injured. Police used tear gas to disperse the crowd. It's after riots broke out yesterday in the wake of the attack. Members of the community have been gathering this morning close to where the incident happened. A 69-year-old man who was already known to police is in custody in relation to the shooting. Paris-based columnist for The Telegraph, Anne-Elisabeth Moutet, told GB News the perpetrator doesn't fit the terrorist portrait.
69 years old. He's a former metro driver. He lived in a flat alone in the center of Paris. His own 90-year-old father says that he's crazy. He collected guns and managed to get some in France where the gun laws are very strict. And he came out of 1 year time in jail only 2 weeks ago, and that was already for attacking a camp of migrants. So all of this points to a racist murder.
Families driving home for the festive period are facing travel disruption with severe traffic on the roads due to train strikes today. Travellers heading abroad are also being warned of delays as Border Force officials walk out for a second day. Disruption at UK airports was brought under control yesterday as the military stepped in to replace workers on strike. Meanwhile, Scotland's rail operators warning strikes starting today will severely limit services, with people being advised to only travel if absolutely necessary. Meanwhile, there's disruption to Christmas deliveries for many as postal workers represented by the Communication Workers Union continue to walk off the job over paid jobs and conditions. Royal Mail employees began their industrial action on Friday ahead of Christmas. The acting General Secretary of the CWU told GB News he hopes the action will help the mail service strive in the future.
Members are very angry about the way they're being treated by Royal Mail. People don't take strike action lightly. People don't want to lose pay. They want to actually be at work serving the customer. But the overwhelming massive feedback from the customer is they support their postie, they support their Royal Mail workers. They understand that the strikes is not just about being greedy, it's about actually having a future service and ensuring this great Royal Mail service that's been there for 500 years can continue to thrive and grow in the future.
Well, Wiltshire police have confirmed a 4-year-old boy has died following a serious medical incident at Longleat Centre Parks this morning. The death isn't being treated as suspicious. We'll bring you more on this story as we get it. And Ukrainian authorities say a Russian strike on the southern city of Kherson has killed at least 7 people and wounded almost 60. Kyiv says Moscow carried out the attack for pleasure. President Volodymyr Zelensky published photos showing burning cars on the streets, smashed windows and bodies. Russia denies targeting civilians. GB News is unable to independently verify the reports from Kherson. Now, at least 19 people are thought to have died as a heavy storm sweeps across parts of the US. A number of fatalities have involved road traffic accidents, including a pile-up in Ohio that reportedly killed at least 2 motorists. Several were also injured. Temperatures plunged as low as minus 45 degrees in some areas, with around 250 million people under weather warnings. The storm's forecast to develop into what's being described as a bomb cyclone, bringing with it heavy, blinding snow. And back here, forecasters are predicting a white Christmas for the Highlands with unsettled weather for the rest of the UK. The Met Office has put a yellow warning for snow and ice in place for most of the Highlands, running from tomorrow evening until 6 p.m. on Boxing Day. Meanwhile, downpours are forecast in most other places over the Christmas weekend. The Environment Agency has issued 66 alerts for possible flooding in England. The NHS is warning parents about the risks of swallowing toy parts, as an increase has seen more children admitted to hospital. The latest data shows the number of children having consumed a small object has doubled over the last 10 years to almost 230. Doctors are concerned about penny-sized batteries that make up part of several household items like festive lights and TV remotes. This is GB News. We'll bring you more news as it happens. Now it's back to Nana.
Good afternoon. It's just coming up to 6 minutes past 4 o'clock. This is GB News on TV, online and on digital radio. Now, instead of starting this hour with my angry monologue, which you know how much I love, I thought I'd save it for you tomorrow because I've written a very special one for you. And I thought on Christmas Eve, I'll give it a rest, you know what I mean? And in its place, I thought I'd bring you some Christmas joy and love. In Northern Ireland, the Children to Lapland Trust took a plane load of children to terminal and took a load of children with terminal and life-threatening conditions to see Father Christmas. And our reporter Dougie Beattie went along for the sleigh ride.
Jingle bells, jingle all the way. Oh, what fun it is to ride on a one-horse open sleigh.
Christmas gifts can come in many forms, and for families that have had a child with terminal or life-threatening illnesses, a getaway to a land of innocence, snow and make-believe may just be the ticket.
It means everything really, to be honest. We've never been in a family trip like this before, so it's going to be magical.
Yeah, this is the first time. This is Evie's first time away too. It's your first holiday? Yeah.
Ella was diagnosed with a brain tumour. So we had went through a whole year of chemo, radiation and everything, and we've come to the end of it, and the nurses said to us that they would nominate her, and that's how we got here.
The wait is finally over. This privately chartered jet behind me will fly these children to Lapland for the magic of Christmas and to meet Santa.
I'm going to see Santa.
Ah, and what are you going to ask him for?
A present. I'm going to ask him for like a gaming monitor and LED lights and all for my bedroom.
With such a journey, medical experience must be on hand. And Dr. Mark Rowlands is the medical director and explains the seriousness of the situation.
These children are sick. I mean, they are life limited and terminal. Some of these kids might never see Santa Claus again, so this is a big, big trip. But you name it, they've had everything: liver transplants, heart transplants, bone marrow transplants. Still a lot of them under a lot of care and treatment at the moment. They're all stabilised. We've all had the go ahead from their individual consultants that they're fit to go, and we want to make sure that they have a great day.
Even the flight crew have a soft spot for this trip, and Captain John Rowland is no different.
Oh, it's wonderful to see all the kids going away to see Father Christmas. They're really excited, so I love doing these flights.
The landscape and climate here are very different, and that gives the families an opportunity to sample some new experiences. The highlight of the day is the one-to-one with Santa, and his advice for children was very clear.
How long should it be before they go to sleep on Christmas Eve?
On Christmas Eve, it could be very good if they can go and sleep about at least at 9 o'clock in the evening, yeah. And then if they have a fireplace, so that they should check up that they have no fire in the fireplace on Christmas Eve.
The whole experience may be a lot to put into one day, but the children on this plane need specific medical support, and time is of the essence. But for most, it's a day that dreams will be realised and memories made. Dougie Beattie, GB News.
Oh, wasn't that lovely? That was lovely, wasn't it? Well, here's what else is coming up today for the Great British Debate this hour. I'm asking, should strikers get a pay rise? And if so, should it be in line with inflation, so it'd be index linked? Then at 4:50, it's Royal Roundup time, and I take a look back at what's been a very remarkable year for the royal family. We're delighted to be joined by insider Lady Colin Campbell. She'll be giving us all the dirt on the royal family. And we'll be including you and your Christmas celebrations in our show today. So do send me some pictures, videos, stories, anything, and tell us what you're getting up to tomorrow. That's on the way in the next hour. As ever, tell me what you think on everything we're discussing. You can email gbviews@gbnews.uk or tweet me at gbnews. Oh, there's no sting. Right, let's bring in my panel. It's all right. So let's bring in my panel. So joining me today is Albie Ammon-Conan, Conservative commentator, Lizzie Cundy, broadcaster and columnist, and also Stephen Pound, MP for, where is it?
They never told me.
Didn't they? Somewhere around here, around these parts, Ealing North.
It's out by the airport.
What do you think? That's lovely. That's a lovely little video there. There's beautiful children.
Do you know, it was extraordinary. I mean, I spent many, many years, over 20 years, in Northern Ireland, or the north of Ireland, and you hear so much bad news. One of the things that struck me about Northern Ireland was the extraordinary way in which cross-community people would actually come together for these charitable things. They have a thing called a tractor run, which is mostly in Fermanagh, South Tyrone, that sort of, where hundreds of people, they just have these tractors going, collecting money, for local kids' schools and hospitals and things. And wouldn't it be marvellous if we actually saw some of the good side of Northern Ireland? Because God alone knows we've seen enough of the bad side. But the people that I met there, cross-community, are absolutely some of the best and most decent people you'd ever meet in your life. And that, fair play to GB News for actually giving that some publicity, because nobody else has done that.
Well done.
Yeah,
it was beautiful, wasn't it? It warms your heart.
Yeah.
And there is so much good in the world. I know we've had a lot of gloom and doom of late, but that just goes and shows, how kind, wonderful people can be.
It's great to see a good news story, finally. It's been a very dramatic year. It's nice to see people coming together, children happy. There are some pretty sad circumstances for those families. Yeah. There should be a little nugget of happiness for them at the end of the year.
Well, it should make you have a think about your own circumstances and whether what you're whinging about is actually worth
exactly.
It.
Yes.
There are always people that are worse off than you,
exactly.
and they're those children making the most of what is.
I hope this is your Christmas message, because that is a really good Christmas message.
Yeah.
I think it's a fair play to you. I also want to congratulate you, because I understand that Rishi Sunak has not phoned you, but Beyoncé has.
No, hold on. Yeah, no, Rishi, I'm not doing this. You just keep talking.
He's got them all waiting with his video, all slick.
Hang on, is it true Beyoncé's just been in touch?
No, don't.
No, she's just given me a text. Beyonce, oh my God, can I read it out? Just saying how great I am on TV. It's fun.
No, it's one for me.
Oh.
Yeah. Oh, what? Oh, I'm here to mend generational... Oh, that's wonderful.
Certainly ain't for me.
She said she did that one to Meghan as well. Healing generation.
Curses
or whatever it is.
My word, isn't that incredible?
So have you got a Christmas wish then? If you could, one wish. Do a Miss World for us.
Oh, well, I would love peace. I really do. Proper do peace. And that hopefully the war is going to stop. That would be the greatest. For
Do
me.
you have a Christmas wish, Al?
My Christmas wish would be for the Conservative Party to get its stuff together so we can win the next general election.
Dream on.
Oh, that's going to be...
What have you got? What's your one?
Well, I mean, I could be facetious, but I mean, when I see the news from Ukraine every day, and I think children who can't remember what their homes look like, people who are being murdered in the streets, I pray to God that we can actually end this, because this brutal megalomaniac, Putin, he's threatening the peace and sanctity of the world, because if he crosses the border into a NATO country, Lithuania, Latvia, Estonia, Poland, then we're in a world war situation. I don't want to, put cold water on things, but please, can we have peace in Ukraine? And maybe an end to the strikes as well.
That's lovely. Well, if nobody's going to be selfish, nobody's going to be selfish, I am. I want to win the lottery today.
So you won the lottery the day
I want to win it now.
No, the day you got this job, you won the lottery.
You can talk, that's all very nice.
I also want one of those hats with a torch on.
Oh, here it comes.
That's what I want. That's what I want.
Yes,
Stephen's promised me one.
So what is your Christmas wish? Let us know. We'd love to hear what your thoughts are. You can always get in touch, GBViews at gbnews.uk, or why not tweet me at GBNews. If you just joined us, I'm Nana Akua. This is GB News. We're live on TV, online and on digital radio. We are the People's Channel, and coming up, we'll continue with the Great British Debate this hour. And I'm asking, should strikers get a pay rise, and should it be in line with inflation, so index linked? And as ever, we want to join you. Please send me all your thoughts as ever. You know the coup. Join me now. That's on the coup.
Monday to Thursday nights on GB News. At 6, it's Dubes & Co. 7 o'clock, Farage. At 8, join Mark Stein. And at 9, Dan Wootton Tonight, followed by Headliners. On TV, radio and online. This is GB News.
Here on GB News Live, we'll be keeping you in the picture, finding out what's happening across the country and finding out why it matters to you. We'll have the facts fast with our team of reporters and specialist correspondents. Wherever it's happening, we'll be there from 12 noon on TV, radio and online. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hello, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and you can join me every weekday 6 till 7 on Dubes & Co. Me and my panel will get stuck right into the day's events, and I can tell you, in fact, I can warn you, expect some robust debate, some strong opinions and perspectives from both sides of the fence. It's about you at home as well. I love to read out all of your comments, or at least as many as I can. So join me, Michelle Dewberry, Monday to Friday, 6 till 7 on Dubes & Co.
We are GB News, the People's Channel. Why not take us home with you by visiting the GB News shop at gbnews.store. You'll find all the official merchandise, a really good present actually for yourself, your friends or your family.
We ship across the UK mainland at no extra cost. GB News, the People's Channel.
I'm Mark White. As GB News Home and Security Editor, I cover those key issues that are so important to you. Our authorities, our communities doing all they can to combat violent crime. With the public services under unbearable strain, why are we still failing to control our borders? Defence, the first priority of any government, has been continually hollowed out. Can we trust our politicians to protect the armed forces? Join me, Mark White, on GB News.
We are GB News, right across the nation. You can get us on television, on radio, on digital. We're absolutely everywhere.
Amazing! You see, amazing!
You remind me of me in the European Parliament. But here's the most important bit. We are not part of the mainstream establishment. We think and speak just like you do. We are the People's Channel.
Magnificent. That's really, really thoughtful.
Come and join us on GB News, the People's News Channel.
My name is Andrew Doyle. Join me every Sunday evening at 7 p.m. for Free Speech Nation. This is a show where we address current affairs and news stories of the week with the help of two wonderful comedian panellists. I brought in comics because I want to give it a lighter edge, and also they work for less. See you there.
Good afternoon. It's just coming up to 19 minutes after 4 o'clock. This is GB News on TV, online and on digital radio. I'm Nana Akua. Don't forget, You can also stream us live on YouTube. But it's now time for our Great British Debate this hour. And I'm asking, should strikers get pay rises? And if so, should they go up and down with inflation? In the latest strikes in the run-up to Christmas, border force staff, as well as postal workers, were also walking out over pay. The only thing with the border force staff is that didn't go so well because the army took over and actually they were better at it. And the Prime Minister's apologised for the Christmas travel disruption, but insists that public sector pay must be controlled. Let's widen this discussion to the rest of my panel, Fraser Mars and Christine Hamilton. All right, so what do you think about this? So they're asking for inflation-busting pay rises, 19%. This is the nurses for sure. That's what they appear to be definitely holding out for. But inflation is set to fall, apparently, in about 18 months and actually really fall. So do you think there is a potential that if they do get a pay rise, it should be indexed in line with inflation? I'll start with you, Fraser.
I think they should get a pay rise. I think it should probably be above inflation. I mean, the way that inflation works means that even if it falls, we've still lost 10% of our income, even if it's just the rate of increase in prices will go down, if you see what I mean. And, this comes off the back of years of pay restraint for the vast majority of people, not just in the public sector. We've had the biggest squeeze in wages since the Napoleonic era. People are really, really suffering. Their wages have not been going up in a way that we would hope or expected. And I think it's right that people, when they're put in that position, take matters into their own hands and go out on strike because, the government's not going to save them. No one's looking out for them. And I just wish more people would do it, actually. I think
more people go on strike?
Stand up for themselves.
You having a laugh?
Yeah, I think outside of the public sector, I wish people would stand up for themselves and ask for better pay and conditions. I think that would be a good thing, broadly.
Christine?
Well, I think you'll get your wish fairly quickly because I'm fairly certain that when we turn into the new year, you will have more people coming out on strike. And I fear we're heading towards what is, to all intents and purposes, a general strike. I mean, goodness knows how many groups we've got out now, but I fear that more will go out. The trouble is, if everybody gets an inflation-busting pay rise, where does it end? Everybody then will want to leapfrog over, and when you've had your pay rise, you then go back, then you start leapfrogging again. We cannot afford it. I honestly think that most people in this country think that as a country we are better off than we are. We're not. We're in a really pretty perilous situation for a variety of reasons, not unconnected with lockdown, a lot of it. And we are in a mess, and we just simply cannot afford. I mean, we cannot afford to give the nurses 18 or 19%. It's just not possible. And if we give them that, everybody else will want it. And the government really has to, I'm afraid, stand up to this. There may be room for rejigging pay scales within various industries and jobs, because it seems to me, looking at the figures that the experts have put out, that some people, whether it's trains or nurses or whatever, are getting disproportionately more. Obviously, you need paying for experience and skills, etc., but even so. So there is, I think, plenty of room for the people at the bottom of all the heap, the people who are striking, if that makes sense. But no, we simply can't afford to give inflation busting. Frankly, by definition, we can't afford it. We're not well off, this country. We're massively in debt. We're wasting vast amounts of money on things like, HS2, etc. But we've got to get a grip of it. And what I can't understand is the government, maybe it's going on behind the scenes, but I haven't seen much evidence of talking going on. I mean, some of the unions were complaining the other day that the government, some of the male government ministers would not want to negotiate with the female union leaders. Now, I think that's tosh. If not, then they should be fired straight away. I simply don't believe that. I think that's most things.
Well, listen, I want to ask Fraser this, because, Fraser, you're saying that people should go on strike and which is exactly what it looks like is happening. But, are you aware of, say, the PCS, that organisation that is the Union for the Civil Servants? I mean, the guy who's sort of at the head of that was saying that they want to bring down the government.
Mark Sorotka.
Yeah, so he was talking about bringing down the government with these strikes. And that seems to be the direction of travel. So whether people really should be striking or shouldn't, those who do not want the Tory party in line. Obviously, the unions are in hock with the Labour Party. They're actually using this as a device to bring down the government. Are you still in favour of this?
Well, I don't think people should be using strikes to bring down the government, and it seems particularly inappropriate from civil servants who are supposed to be politically neutral. But I do think we're a long way away from that. I think if we, the comparison that people are making is with the winter of discontent in the 1970s, and that, genuinely did call into question the authority of the government at the time. But, you look back then, around about 12 million working days were lost to strikes in a single month. At the moment, at the peak of these strikes, we're looking at possibly about 1 million. Now, that's a lot, compared to previous years, but we've got used to people not going on strike. We've got used to record low union membership, and there's all kinds of reasons for that. A lot of that has to do with the unions themselves being quite useless, frankly, and not doing that good a job of standing up for their employees. But I think, people are going on strike because they've really run out of options. People don't take this decision lightly. They're losing money to go on strike. They're, not getting paid as much as they would be if they were at work, and that's pretty painful in this kind of cost of living squeeze. I don't think it's. I think you'd really, strikes would need to be 10 times bigger to really threaten the government, to really make things politically unstable, and I don't think there's any sign of that.
Was it Mark Soroka? That's what he said. That was their intention. And then, as you said, they're civil servants. They shouldn't really. They're supposed to be neutral. They're supposed to be serving the government, whichever government's in power. And it's not for them to decide who should be in power, and for them to use their power to sort of change that. Christine, what do you make of this then? Because would you say that it would be fair, if they are going to get pay rises, that they should be index linked in a way, so that when obviously inflation comes down, those pay rises, because there'll be a bigger gap, it'll be a more substantial pay rise, and also a lot of people will be put into higher tax brackets as well, which is sort of self-defeating.
Well, I think quite a few people haven't realised that. But just to go back to something that I think it was Fraser said, I mean, these are political strikes to a large extent. I think they are aimed at the government, and the unions do definitely, they want to bring down this government. They sent blood. Quite rightly, they sent blood. If they're index linked, people aren't going to accept a pay reduction when inflation goes massively down, are they? So it doesn't really work like that. I just think people have got to be realistic. I know it's very easy for people like me to sit here. Well, I'm retired for a start, and there are a lot of people who are not paid a great deal, and they deserve more, and they are struggling. And in particular, at a time like this, at Christmas, as I think Fraser said, a lot of them are losing money. And Christmas is an expensive time because money needs to be spent on things that you don't normally spend it on, and they're losing money. So I think it is particularly difficult. But the government is responsible for the whole country and is responsible for getting us out of the mess that we're in now. And offering inflation-busting pay rises is not the way to do it. It just isn't.
And thank you very much, Christine Hamilton, and also Fraser Myers. They're my panellists joining me for that particular subject. Thank you so much. Well, earlier, though, Theo Chikomba, he went out to have a chat with some strikers to find out what their views were. Have a listen.
It's yet another day where those expecting deliveries may have to wait a little longer, as members of the Communication Workers Union walk out for the second day after rejecting a deal this week within hours of receiving it.
All we asked for the company in return was to get round the table, proper negotiations, not to introduce unagreed change while those talks were taking place, and to give us the assurance that they're not going to introduce a new resourcing model to bring in self-employed workers who have to pay for their own vans, their own, they don't get holiday pay, they don't get sick pay, agency workers and workers on 20% less terms and conditions.
Bearing the brunt, this business in West London manufactures beauty products for people with sensitive skin.
Good morning, guys. How are you getting on today?
This time of the year is their peak trading period.
Christmas time and also the time before Black Friday. It's probably the most busiest time during the year. So sometimes we need to call like extra help from either agency or even from different departments. So we are like a family, so we usually help each other just to make sure that the product is made on time, but also with the highest quality standard. So that's our aim.
Postal workers have been offered a 9% pay increase over 18 months, described by Royal Mail as the company's best and final offer. But what does this mean for millions of customers across the UK who rely on their service? It is that time of the year again when many people will be coming into their local high streets to get those last-minute Christmas presents. But this year, with Royal Mail strikes, some are experiencing delays, especially if they haven't had the opportunity to come and get them in person. The strikes have caused disruption in the days leading up to Christmas for Pi Skincare, as they say Royal Mail is the glue that connects them to their online customers.
It's often not just people desperately, panic buying gifts. Often for us, because we are a beauty brand, many of our customers will be realising they're going away and thinking, oh my gosh, I'm going to run out of my skincare. So they're doing a lot of panic replenishment too. So there's a bit of that, but this last week and those last days before Christmas are really busy for us.
While there are no further strike days announced yet, no agreement has been reached, meaning we could see further strike days next year. The Comber, GB News.
Our national reporter, Theo Comber. This is GB News. You're live on TV, online and on digital radio. And now earlier in the previous hour, we were talking about whether Keir Starmer had shot himself in the foot with regard to the gender reform bill. And apparently in the Telegraph, he'd expressed his support. A lot of you have been in touch with your views. I've got one here from Hillary. Hillary says, I think if the reports are true, then Sir Keir Starmer, as a lawyer, is showing incredible naivety over the new GRC legislation, given a court in Scotland recently ruled that gender trumps sex in terms of Sex Equality Act, reducing the application for a GRC to 3 months without a gender dysphoria diagnosis seems impolite. It is insulting saying it is boring. By the way, do trans men who have given birth call themselves mothers? Once gender is identified as a sex identifier, will they want to change their birth certificate to make it a minefield? That's one of the thoughts. Has anybody got any other views? Oh, I've got some here. Let's do Mary's. Mary says...
How appropriate for this time of year.
Yeah. Stephen Pound, joined by Stephen Pound, Alcona, and also Lizzie Cundy. Mary says, how did a tiny minority manage to hijack the Scottish Parliament into changing a law? Is the ultimate aim, if you can change sex at 16, you can vote at 16. More possible SNP voters. Maybe that is the...
Well, they've already got votes at 16.
Well, yeah, well, that's true, actually. They have actually... Well done, Steve. Good observation.
Explains a lot, really.
Nicholas said... Well, only in a general election, though.
Oh, yeah. No.
Not in a general election, I don't think, no.
Yeah, no, not in a general election to the Westminster Parliament. They can vote to the Holyrood Parliament at 16, and they could vote in the referendum at 16, which is the key thing.
Well, I guess that is. But it will not really, not if Westminster won't pass it, even though Sturgeon said she's going to go along with it and do it anyway. This one, Nicholas says, Nana, I would just like to throw in my 2 pence. Surely we should differentiate between trans women who have had surgery and their male genitalia removed and are now in all sense and purpose a woman.
Exactly.
And a trans woman who identifies as and lives as a woman but still has male genitalia. Surely that would make a difference regarding changing rooms presence, etc.
Yeah.
You'd think, Nick, but there doesn't seem to be much common sense in this at all, does there?
I think it's a backroom deal for the Scottish Independence Party. I think there's something going on here.
Obviously, there's no evidence to suggest that.
I'm just saying, it's my suggestion.
And then Anne says she's either mad, as are those who supported the bill, or she and they are playing a very Machiavellian game. Could be that they want to provoke a confrontation with the Westminster government to bolster their cause for independence. Anyway, it's all very gobsmackingly depressing. We end on that one then. It's just coming up to 33 minutes after 4 o'clock. Here with me, I'm Nana Akua. This is GB News on TV, online and on digital radio. After the break, it's time for the Great British Debate. And my panel here in the studio will digest the question about strikers' pay and digest the royal news of 2022 with Lady Colin Campbell. She'll be here on the show. But first, let's get your latest news headlines.
Nana, thank you very much. This is the latest from the GB newsroom.
Protesters have clashed again with police in Paris as a vigil was being held at a Kurdish cultural centre where a gunman killed a woman and 2 men and left several others injured. Police used tear gas to disperse the crowd. It's after riots broke out yesterday in the wake of the attack. Members of the community have been gathering this morning close to where the incident happened. A 69-year-old man who was already known to police is in custody in relation to the shooting. Families driving home for the festive period faced travel disruption with severe traffic on the roads due to train strikes today. Travellers heading abroad are also being warned of delays as Border Force officials walk out for a second day. Disruption at UK airports was brought under control yesterday as the military stepped in to replace workers on strike. Meanwhile, Scotland's rail operators warning strike starting today will severely limit services, with people being advised to only travel if absolutely necessary. Meanwhile, there's disruption to Christmas deliveries for many as postal workers represented by the Communication Workers Union continue to walk off the job over pay, jobs and conditions. Royal Mail employees began their industrial action on Friday ahead of Christmas. Wiltshire Police have confirmed a 4-year-old boy has died following a serious medical incident at Longleat Centre Parks this morning. The death is not being treated as suspicious, and we'll bring you more on that story as we get it. Ukrainian authorities say a Russian strike on the southern city of Kherson has killed at least 7 people and wounded almost 60. Kyiv says Moscow carried out the attack for pleasure. President Volodymyr Zelensky published photos showing burning cars on the streets, smashed windows and bodies. Russia denies targeting civilians. GB News is unable to independently verify the reports from Kherson. Forecasters are predicting a white Christmas for the Highlands with unsettled weather for the rest of the UK. The Met Office has put a yellow warning for snow and ice in place for most of the Highlands, running from tomorrow night until 6 p.m. on Boxing Day. Meanwhile, downpours are forecast in most other places over the Christmas weekend. The Environment Agency has issued 66 alerts for possible flooding in England. TV, online and DAB+ radio. This is GB News.
I'm Mark Dolan. Join me at 11 on GB News for Headliners, in which I'll be joined by 2 of the UK's top comedians discussing tomorrow's papers. If it's an important story, we'll cover it, but we'll have some fun along the way. Headliners, the late-night paper review that won't send you to sleep like the others will. 7 nights a week at 11 p.m. on GB News.
Monday to Thursday nights on GB News. At 6, it's Dubes & Co. 7 o'clock, Farage. At 8, join Mark Stein. And at 9, Dan Wootton Tonight, followed by Headliners. On TV, radio and online. This is GB News.
Monday to Thursday, 9 p.m. till 11 p.m. Join me, Dan Wootton. I'll bring you the sharpest takes and hottest debates. Do you not believe in prison?
I don't believe in prison.
I'm completely stunned. I guarantee you there'll be no spin, no bias, no censorship.
I actually was personally quite offended by it.
And no reason to go to bed.
So I guess they've always been quite woke.
That's Dan Wootton Tonight on TV, radio and online. Monday to Thursday from 9 p.m. till 11 p.m. on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Lawrence Fox, on GB News. Frank, fun, fearless and sometimes serious. Much as I love a Friday night punch-up, what I really want is a battle of ideas. I want to look at things differently. I want to hear different voices and engage with your unique experiences. Every Friday at 7 p.m. on GB News.
Hello, I'm Esther McVeigh.
And I'm Philip Davis.
Whether you're watching or listening on TV, online or on radio, we handpick the latest stories, debates and expert opinions for your weekend. So whether that's politics, news or showbiz, we've got it covered.
Join us every Saturday morning at 10 o'clock on GB News.
Join me every Sunday at 6 p.m. for Gloria Meets. In exclusive interviews, I'll be finding out who our politicians really are and what they really think.
It's something that you would never want anyone to suffer.
I didn't know what channels there were. I didn't think I'd be believed.
I must have weighed about 7 stone and I'm 5'8".
My instincts was to sort of cover this up. I mean, clearly that was a mistake.
Join me every Sunday at 6 p.m. on GB News, the People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
Hello there, it's Eamon Holmes here from Breakfast on GB News. We're not just on your television and your screens, you know.
We're on DAB plus digital radio, so you can listen to your favourite shows on the move.
If you've not yet listened to GB News Radio, it's very simple. We're on your radio player and tune-in apps, on your smart speaker, phone or tablet, or online at gbnews.uk.
Take us with you wherever you go. GB News Radio.
You never have to miss a moment of the People's Channel.
Welcome back. This is GB News on TV, online and on digital radio. We are the People's Channel. I'm Nana Akua. It's time, though, for our Great British Debate this hour. And I'm asking, should strikers get pay rises? And if so, should they go up and down with inflation? Let's see what my panel make of that. I'm joined by Conservative commentator Albie Amonkona, broadcaster and economist Lizzie Cundy, and also former Labour MP for Ealing North, Stephen Pound.
Hello there.
What do pounds make?
Prizes!
Prizes.
I used to do that show.
I don't know why I was saying that. So what do you think? Albie, I'll start with you then. OK, strikers, everybody's going on strike. Everyone wants more money. It's going to go up, inflation will go up. You'll end up in a different tax bracket, a higher bracket than you're in. You pay more tax and the cost of living will carry on increasing. But then they're saying in about 18 months, inflation will come back down. But your pay is still up there.
So what I would say about the pay rise is every year independent review bodies decide on public sector pay and the government can either choose to accept that recommendation or ignore it. And most of the time it means a pay rise of some description, although this year it's not high enough for the striking workers. Should it be linked to inflation? Should it be an inflation-busting pay rise? No, absolutely it should not be an inflation-busting pay rise, because what we do not want to happen is a wage price spiral where we essentially see inflation embedded into the economy and perpetually higher prices because people's wages are going up. We don't want that to happen. So it seems quite cruel now for the government to be saying, no, we're holding firm on the pay offers that we've given. But actually, in the longer term, for the taxpayer, I actually think it's the best thing to do.
But what about comments like from Fraser saying that everyone should go on strike if they really feel they should? I mean, is that slightly irresponsible given the situation we're in?
Look, I've got no problem in principle with people going on strike. Workers have the right to withdraw labour. The question is whether or not what they're asking for is reasonable. And I think asking for a 19% pay rise is unreasonable.
Listen.
Well, I just think we've got no post, we've got no ambulances, we've got no nurses.
Well, that's the point.
Why does everyone want to come here? Why does everyone want to come here? It's a mess.
Do the jobs, can we?
Look, giving a pay rise in line or above inflation is just going to spiral into a recession, isn't it? That's basic economics. And I'm sorry, it's called, I don't know if you know this, hoisted by your own petard. When it's like self-sabotaging, it really is. And there's some facts here for you. 180 billion this year went into the NHS, more per head than any other comparable health service in Europe. And yet we have some of the worst outcomes in Europe. So obviously something is wrong. I mean, it totally needs to be redone and revalued, the NHS. It's a shambolic mess. And the first order of any government is to look after its own people, and we're putting 13.8 still into billion into foreign aid. Well, 6.5 million is looking after the illegal immigrants a day.
Well, it's diversity and inclusion, isn't it? I mean, like, we've got a lot of money spent on that, and it's very badly skewed as well. So some of those diversity managers are on like 90 grand or 100 and something grand, and some of the managers are on over £40,000. They're all being paid more than the frontline workers in the NHS. So we are, even if they're asking for more money, we're chucking in more and more money into this thing. But yet, is it being used to the right thing? No. Is it being used in the right area? I
think we're making a fundamental mistake about lumping all the strikes together. About 70%. Hang on, about 70% of the population of this country aren't in unions. And my son's a self-employed electrician. There's no point in him going on strike. He'd starve. So I think we should actually be realising it's not just the unions. But back in, probably the only person on this panel who actually, was on the picket line, not only last week with the communications workers, but in 78, 79 when I was the branch secretary of the Health Service Workers Union. And I remember the Health Secretary, David Owen, said to me, he said, you carry on with this strike, you're going to have 20 years of Tory government. And he was wrong. It was 18 years of Tory government. So I think we need to be a little bit shrewd. The point about not negotiating with the women union leaders, I thought was a bit strange. Apparently, Pat Cullen was invited till they realised that she was a woman. But the reality is, this 19% is nonsense. It's called collective bargaining. You go in for 19. I've done it. I've been there.
Yeah, but they're not. When they've been given pay offers, they're not happy with.
Well, no, hang on a sec. In the case of the nurses, and this is the point now. All these strikes are very different. With the Communication Workers Union, there's a huge number of casuals working on the Royal Mail at the present time. We all know that the way that people deliver post is different now. You know, with emails and God knows what. So we should actually be sitting down and talking. And this is the fundamental problem that the government have got. On the one hand, they're the paymasters and mistresses. They pay the money. They pay for Royal Mail. They pay for this ridiculous disaggregated transport system where you've got dozens and dozens of little companies all over the place. And on the one hand, they're standing there making these ridiculous braggadocio statements with Steve Barclay and Rishi Sunak, who, he's not Charles Atlas. We know, he's not the hard man. On the one hand, they're making these statements unhelpful. On the other hand, they're saying, no, we're not going to sit and talk because there's nothing to do with us. Well, I'm sorry. We're approaching the stage of a national emergency here. We genuinely are. And you know and I know that the first person who dies on the street because there's no nurse or no ambulance staff there to help them, that will actually bring the government to the table, whether they like it or not. So be a bit grown up. Actually talk. The nurses are going to get the money. We know they're going to get some money. The Royal Mail are going to be reconfigured anyway. Probably the transport services are going to be brought back into public ownership because it's just too messy and complicated at the moment. Probably, and we haven't even heard from the utilities. We've not heard from the gas, water and electricity. Okay, we haven't heard from the teachers yet, but on the other hand, the schools, they're broken up. We actually need to look at this in the big picture. But for me, the one thing that encapsulates all of this, and I think you've touched on it a number of times, is the state of the National Health Service. And I think Lizzie just talked about it now. When you've gone from 70 million being spent on it back in, 19th of July 1948, at the beginning of it, my birthday, to the present time when you've got, over 80 billion. We need to have a proper cross-party, non-partisan, sit down and say, what sort of a health service do we want? Because at the moment it is broken. So my fundamental point is, it's not about one group of workers. It's about each individual problem is different. And we want a grown-up government that's prepared to say, in the national interest, we're going to actually leave aside our sectarian differences and actually talk about this as grown-ups for the good of the country.
But I think that sounds very, very ideological.
It's Christmas.
But the problem with that, but the problem with that is they are working as a pack. So they're working as a pack.
No, they're not.
No, they are. They are. And they're all. There's agreement for them all to kind of strike around
the
about
Royal
the same time.
College of Nursing and the RMT.
Yeah, they're all
they wouldn't be in the same room together.
Listen. They're working as a. They're working.
Mick Lynch.
They don't need to be in the same room together. They're working as a pack. They're working.
Yes, they are.
In,
and if the
in collaboration to
agree.
try and bring down the government, as are the Civil Servants Union, the PCS Union, as are RMT, as are all these unions who are in hoc with the Labour Party. It's quite simple, and they know that if they work together like this and they bring a change and the government don't agree to this, or they're making life difficult with the government.
Well, the RMT stands candidates against the Labour Party. The RMT... They're not affiliated, they hate us.
Maybe, but they don't want the Tory party there. What was it Mick Lynch said? You gave me the quote. What did Mick Lynch say?
Well, no, he says, all I want for Christmas is a little bit more socialism. But hang on a second, don't forget, there's certain revolutionary socialists who actually want to see crisis and chaos because they think it's only through that sort of crisis. It's the old light bulb. You can't change a light bulb, you've got to smash the light bulb.
But, Stephen, look, where does Keir Starmer stand on this? Let's be honest, he won't go on the
He doesn't stand
I know
anyway,
the NHS waiting list is now 7.2 million cases on the NHS.
And Keir Starmer has said over and over again, hour after hour, I would sit down and I would talk to these people in the national interest because it is too damned important now. And for the government to actually say, not me, Gov, and do the Pontius Pilate, again, a seasonal appropriately metaphor, that simply isn't good enough. It fails the government, fails the country.
Well, you look at our armed forces are a shining example of a vocational profession, isn't it?
Well, do you know there's twice as many people in prison today as there are in the Royal Navy? I mean, what's all that about?
But if anyone is paid by the Crown, I don't think you should be allowed to go on strike. Lives are going to be lost.
Police officers aren't.
Well, listen, today I've been asking about, with regard to the strikes, whether you think that their pay rises should go, in line with inflation, should they go up and down? And lots of you have been getting in touch with your views. Let's see. Andy says, remember this pay rise in April is April 22 and will be backdated. The pay rise for April 23 will follow then. You all need to know this, as this will have further strikes as they demand 15% to 2023, April onwards. This is a must discussion. Ian says that the strikers have totally wrecked Christmas this year. I like the story about Border Force at the airports. Apparently, efficiency improved massively with the army doing border checks. We should give the armed forces the pay rise. Yeah, and ironically, they can't strike. No, we don't need wages linked to inflation. We need a Great Britain to return to...
What?
What are you laughing at?
Sorry, we tried in 1922, it bankrupted the nation.
Hang on, let me...
I was there.
We need Great Britain to return to the gold standard to have real money and eliminate inflation. The government has too much control over printing unbacked money, increasing the money supply and creating inflation. And that's from Richard. Thank you, Richard. They laughed at you, Richard, but I don't know why they would laugh.
Well, so we're both economists. We're entitled to laugh.
Right, well, now it's been a very tumultuous year, as you know, for all but none more so than their beloved royal family. The House of Windsor has been riddled with scandals and sadness throughout 2022 from the issues that still surround Prince Andrew and Jeffrey Epstein, which has today been seen King Charles effectively evict his brother from Buckingham Palace, to the Duke and Duchess of Woke's Netflix series, hell-bent on bringing down the monarchy. And, of course, we had the glorious Platinum Jubilee in June, which I covered here on GB News. And then, of course, in September, we had the news that none of us wanted to face the death of Her Majesty the Queen Elizabeth II. So, as we look back on the second Elizabethan age and look forward to the dawn of a new era under King Charles III, now I'm joined by royal author and commentator Lady Colin Campbell to get her thoughts, and it's time for this year's Royal Roundup. Right, welcome, Lady Colin Campbell. Lovely to have you on board. So, first of all, talk to me then. What's been going on? What's the recent things that have been going on in the royal household?
Well, I'm not quite sure what you mean, because on the one hand, you have the King and the Prince of Wales and the rest of the royal family trying to pursue business as normal and ignore what's going on in America. Then you have Meghan and Harry telling their version of the truth and causing no end of trouble. And I have to tell you, I have been, I'm Jamaican, so I'm West Indian, and I have been receiving very, very upset reports from the high commissioners about how upset they are with the effect that Meghan and Harry's conduct and claims, those who have been having in the Commonwealth, in particular in the Caribbean, and how destabilizing they are, not only to the Commonwealth generally, but to the moderate segment of the Commonwealth, which they find extremely distressing because, Nana, you're obviously black, and you and I both know that insofar as racism is concerned in this country, there's always a bit of prejudice everywhere, wherever you are, whoever you are. But this is one of the most inclusive, non-racial countries in the world. And you have Harry and Meghan playing all these very distressing and damaging cards. And it is extremely upsetting to moderates all over the Commonwealth, not only in the West Indies, but I gather in Africa as well.
Yeah, and the thing is, they had within that Netflix, I don't know what, I can't call it a documentary because they weren't really documenting anything that seemed to be factual, but within that, they called it Empire, was it 2.0 as well? Afua Hirsch referred to it as that, as though the rest of the Commonwealth countries were feeling the same way as Harry and Meghan. But that just doesn't appear to be the truth. And now I suspect the couple are not really being received well by, celebrities and so on and so forth. What do you think is their next move on this? Because ultimately, this isn't. It's damaging the monarchy. Then there's the book coming out as well.
Well, I have great friends who have properties in Montecito, and they have a lot of overlap with Harry and Meghan's crowd. And they say, very interestingly, that Harry and Meghan are received by no one of any consequence, Number two, Harry and Meghan, when they appear in public, unless it is for a photo op, never appear together. There are, and I've heard reports from friends of the younger royals that Harry and Meghan's marriage is in serious trouble, but they are keeping the show on the road for financial reasons at this point. How true that is, who knows? But the fact of the matter is, where do they go from here? If their marriage is in trouble, they will get divorced. If they manage to stay together, it's a downward slide. Because the fact of the matter is, the only thing they ever had to sell was the glamour of being royal. And they have de-glamorized it entirely. You know, nobody finds being sullied by filth and, you know, that they're victims and, there's, you know, nobody, poor me is not glamorous, you know, glamorous me is glamorous. So I think they are a busted flush. There might be another series from Netflix. There might be one or two more things that they'll be able to milk for the next year. But I think 2 years from now, everybody is going to treat them the way all the A-listers in New York, Montecito, and Britain and Europe are treating them, like pariahs.
And I think, I mean, I did last week call for a sort of press blackout on all the stuff they're doing. So if the press just ignored, I mean, we can obviously criticise from the sidelines, but if the press kind of ignored them and just let them get on with their, you know, instead of helping them to promote their documentaries and things like that, I think it would be over a lot quicker. I think the press need to sort of start working a bit more together on this one as well. Listen, Lady Colin Campbell, thank you so much for joining me. It's so wonderful to talk to you. Thank you so much.
My pleasure. Lovely to see you. God bless. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye. Fabulous. Right, well, this show is nothing without you and your views. Let's welcome our great British voice on to the programme, their opportunity to be part of the show and tell us what they think about the topics that we're discussing. Where should we go? Should we head over to Bristol? Should we go see if we head over to Bristol and have a chat with... Is it? Oh, two of you, Lee, and also Brian in Solihull. Welcome to you both. And it's that I didn't recognise you, Lee, with the hat on. Well, go on then, Lee. Well, let's start with what's going on with you then in your Christmas. Talk to me about it because you're already dressed and good to go.
Yeah, we're having family day. The little one and my wife are out at the moment. They're coming back. So when they get back, we're playing board games and watching Christmas films and eating some nice food. So it's going to be a nice day today and tomorrow, doing very much the same thing tomorrow. After what's been a thoroughly depressing 2022, Nana, don't you agree?
Yeah. I mean, it's been bad, isn't it? So does your little one, does she think that you are Father Christmas in that, or does she know it's you?
I think she still believes, yeah, definitely. There is, but she started to question it, and she definitely knows that I am not Father Christmas. Yeah, that she's already sees straight through that already.
Yeah, well, Father Christmas is coming tonight anyway, so that's why, obviously. What about you, Brian? Yeah. Brian, what are you up to then this Christmas?
No, I have gone back to Northern Ireland, so I'm actually in Enniskillen right now. So it's a big family gathering, typical Irish Christmas. Thankfully, it hasn't been very affected by any of the strikes or anything. So really looking forward to a nice evening tonight and obviously Christmas tomorrow.
Lovely. Well, listen, thank you so much, Brian, there in Northern Ireland, and also Lee in Bristol. Lovely to talk to you both. There's our great British voices. You're with me. I'm Nana Akua. This is GBNews on TV, online and on digital radio. Still loads more to come in the final hour of the show, including our fabulous Christmas quiz. And I'll be testing my panel on their present rapping skills, so do not go anywhere.
Monday to Thursday, 9 p.m. till 11 p.m. Join me, Dan Wootton. I'll bring you the sharpest takes and hottest debates. Do you not believe in prison?
I don't believe in prison.
I'm completely stunned. I guarantee you there'll be no spin, no bias, no censorship.
I actually was personally quite offended by it.
And no reason to go to bed.
So I guess they've always been quite woke.
That's Dan Wootton tonight on TV, radio and online. Monday to Thursday from 9 p.m. till 11 p.m. on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Every morning from 6 o'clock, we'll wake you up with GB News Breakfast with all the stories you didn't know from the night before.
So whether it's serious news, entertainment, or your own views from all over our great nation, we're here to kick off your day with a smile.
The national media should be reflecting and reporting what's happening here.
You will notice the northwestern accents. Whether you're with us on TV, radio, or online, every morning, it's breakfast from 6 a.m. Hope you can join us.
Join me every Sunday at 6 p.m. for Gloria Meets. In exclusive interviews, I'll be finding out who our politicians really are and what they really think.
It's something that you would never want anyone to suffer.
I didn't know what channels there were. B, I didn't think I'd be believed.
I must have weighed about 7 stone and I'm 5'8".
My instincts was to sort of cover this up. I mean, clearly that was a mistake.
Join me every Sunday at 6 p.m. on GB News, the People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
Hello there, it's Eamon Holmes here from Breakfast on GB News. We're not just on your television and your screens, you know.
We're on DAB plus digital radio, so you can listen to your favourite shows on the move.
If you've not yet listened to GB News Radio, it's very simple. We're on your radio player and TuneIn apps, on your smart speaker, phone or tablet, or online at gbnews.uk.
Take us with you wherever you go. GB News Radio.
You never have to miss a moment of the People's Channel.
My name's Tom Harwood and join me 9:30 a.m. every weekday for The Briefing, your one-stop shop for everything you need to know about what's going on in politics today.
I wonder if this is a deal that might need to be like the biscuits in this factory, twice baked.
Is there not an opportunity here to win out against the extremes?
Tom Harwood, GB News.
What are you going to do about it?
Things should have been done differently, and they certainly are being done differently.
Don't miss it. The Briefing with me, Tom Harwood, 9:30 Monday to Friday on GB News.
Hello, I'm Simon Evans. Join me on GB News for Headliners at 11 p.m, where I'll be joined by two of the country's top comedians as we take a look at tomorrow's newspapers tonight. If it's a big story, we'll be covering it, I guarantee, but we'll also have some fun along the way. That's GB News Headliners at 11 p.m. We won't put you to sleep, unlike some of the other paper review shows out there. So join us, 11 p.m, 7 nights a week.
Hello, it's just gone 5 o'clock. Welcome. This is GB News on TV, online and on digital radio. I'm Nana Akua. And for the next hour, me and my panel will be taking on some of the big topics hitting the headlines right now. This show is all about opinion. It's mine, it's theirs, and of course it's yours. We'll be debating, discussing, and at times we will disagree, but no one will be cancelled. Joining me today is Conservative commentator Albi Amankona, broadcaster and columnist Lizzie Cundy, and also former Labour MP for Ealing North, Stephen Pound. But before we get started, let's get your latest news headlines.
Good afternoon, it's 1 minute past 5. I'm Tatiana Sanchez in the GB newsroom. Protesters have clashed again with police in Paris as a vigil was being held at a Kurdish cultural centre where a gunman killed a woman and 2 men and left several others injured. Police used tear gas to disperse the crowd. It's after riots broke out yesterday in the wake of the attack. Members of the community have been gathering this morning close to where the incident happened. A 69-year-old man who was already known to police is in custody in relation to the shooting. Paris-based columnist for The Telegraph, Anne-Elisabeth Moutet, told GB News the perpetrator doesn't fit the terrorist portrait.
He's 69 years old. He's a former metro driver. He lived in a flat alone in the center of Paris. His own 90-year-old father says that he's crazy. He collected guns and managed to get some in France where the gun laws are very strict. And he came out of 1 year time in jail only 2 weeks ago, and that was already for attacking a camp of migrants. So all of this points to a racist murder.
Families driving home for the festive period face travel disruption with severe traffic on the roads due to train strikes today. Travellers heading abroad are also being warned of delays as Border Force officials walk out for a second day. Disruption at UK airports was brought under control yesterday as the military stepped in to replace workers on strike. Meanwhile, Scotland's rail operators warning strikes starting today will severely limit services, with people being advised to only travel if absolutely necessary. Meanwhile, there's disruption to Christmas deliveries for many as postal workers represented by the Communication Workers Union continue to walk off the job over pay jobs and conditions. Royal Mail employees began their industrial action on Friday ahead of Christmas. The acting General Secretary of the CWU told GB News he hopes the action will help the mail service strive in the future.
Members are very angry about the way they're being treated by Royal Mail. People don't take strike action lightly. People don't want to lose pay. They want to actually be at work serving the customer. But the overwhelming massive feedback from the customer is they support their postie, they support their Royal Mail workers. They understand that the strikes is not just about being greedy, it's about actually having a future service and ensuring this great Royal Mail service that's been there for 500 years can continue to thrive and grow in the future.
Wiltshire Police have confirmed a 4-year-old boy has died following a serious medical incident at Longleat Centre Park this morning. The death is not being treated as suspicious. Holidaymakers said the swimming pool there had been closed due to the incident. Ukrainian authorities say a Russian strike on the southern city of Kherson has killed at least 7 people and wounded almost 60. Kyiv says Moscow carried out the attack for pleasure. President Volodymyr Zelensky published photos showing burning cars on the streets, smashed windows and bodies. Russia denies targeting civilians. GB News is unable to independently verify the reports from Kherson. Now, at least 19 people are thought to have died as a heavy storm sweeps across parts of the US. A number of fatalities have involved road traffic accidents, including a pile-up in Ohio that reportedly killed at least 2 motorists. Several were also injured. Temperatures plunged as low as minus 45 degrees in some areas, with around 250 million people under weather warnings. The storm is forecast to develop into what's being described as a bomb cyclone, bringing with it heavy, blinding snow. Well, back here, forecasters are predicting a white Christmas for the Highlands with unsettled weather for the rest of the UK. The Met Office has put a yellow warning for snow and ice in place for most of the Highlands, running from tomorrow night until 6 p.m. on Boxing Day. Meanwhile, downpours are forecast in most other places over the Christmas weekend. The Environment Agency has issued 66 alerts for possible flooding in England. And the lead singer of dance group Faithless has died at the age of 65. Maxi Jazz, whose real name was Maxwell Fraser, was a member of the group alongside Rollo and Sister Bliss. A statement on his social media said he died peacefully at his home in South London and changed lives in so many ways. They were best known for songs Insomnia and We Become One. And Father Christmas's journey delivering presents to children around the world is well underway. This is the live feed of Santa's movements, tracked by the North American Aerospace Defense Command. NORAD have been tracking his annual trip since 1955, when a child phoned the command asking for Santa's location. NORAD's deputy commander says children in the UK need to be in bed by 9 o'clock.
Traditionally, we've seen Santa arriving over the UK around 11:30 at night. That's why we keep repeating to the kids out there, be in bed by 9 and keep the magic of Christmas alive. And you're going to wake up to a great surprise of having present probably under your trees or by the fireplace, depending on your traditions.
This is GB News. We'll bring you more news as it happens. Now it's back to Nana Akua.
This is a GB News. It's just coming up to 8 minutes after 5 o'clock. I'm Nana Akua. Now, with mulled wine on offer and the booze pouring out at parties, many of us have certainly been having a Merry Christmas in more than the traditional sense. And some, on the other hand, are shunning alcohol. whether for personal, medical or religious reasons, many won't be toasting the bubbles this year. But who's having the better time? Earlier this week, Telegraph columnist Celia Walden slammed teetotalers, warning that we're at risk of becoming a country of extremes and that no one needs to hear sermonising from them on Christmas Day. So coming up in the Great British Debate this hour, I'm going to be asking you about alcohol and whether how you're coping in my difficult conversations. Right, so let's have a chat with my panel. Lizzie Cundy, Albie Amonkona and also Stephen Pound. That was interesting. It was a nice, interesting start. So, Stephen, are you going to have a teetotal type person?
Well,
I'm asking as a joke. I mean, you haven't seen he's just drinking himself.
Excuse me. In fact, I remember Celia Walden's father actually in the house. I'm not sure he was entirely teetotal. Look, I think the point about sermonising, in fact, I'm in favour of sermonising at Christmas, but sermonising from the pulpit, not people stopping you in the street or down the pub and saying, "Oi, you shouldn't be." The number of people who say, "You should really be miserable. Should be miserable. How dare you enjoy yourself?" Alcohol is a lubricant, and I think, like a lot of things in life, too much of it is no. I mean, I can't think of anything in life that you can have too much of. And alcohol is one of those. Taken in moderation, taken reasonably, it's a decent way. It's actually, it's what anaesthetises us to the agonies and the pains of life in many ways.
Do you think? I think some people would say that it's awful, and especially those who, if you're ever with somebody who's got a drinking issue, that's not great at all.
I never come up to them and say, "Oi, you should be drinking."
No.
I've never ever gone up to a teetotaler and say, "Oi, teetotaler, have a few scoops." But on the other hand, they feel entitled to come to me because occasionally I have a bit of a thirst.
I used to be quite put off. If I was going on a date with someone and they said they didn't drink, I'd be like, as in, gosh, this is going to be really boring. Or do you have an issue with alcohol? That would be like the thing. But now, actually, if I met someone and they said they didn't drink, I'd be like, oh, it doesn't really bother me now. In fact, I'd probably be glad of it.
Yeah, it's becoming a lot more common, especially with Generation Z, to be teetotal. We actually see much lower levels of teenage drinking in teenagers today than we have seen in generations in previous times. And look, yes, alcohol is fun. Yes, alcohol is a social lubricant, but it does also can cause a lot of people health problems, not just alcoholism, but it can make depression worse, for example. It causes a lot of antisocial behaviour. So take it in moderation. Yes, of course, it's not necessarily bad, but let's not pretend that alcohol is all, this land of milk and honey, and it's fine to overindulge. It's about balance, and people should be allowed to make decisions about drinking or not drinking without judgment.
It's true, and it can't drink itself. You actually have to drink it. So it's, so you've got to take some responsibility if you're going to drink a lot of it. Lizzie?
No, I totally agree with both of them. I never thought I'd agree with Stephen, but I am. But all in moderation. Yeah. But I am I still am. If someone says, "Oh, I don't want to drink," I'm like, "Oh, go on." But I hate the people that force you to have a drink if you don't want to. And it should be in moderation. But now we're coming to this, like a nanny state where we're being told what to do. I mean, now they're going to say, don't have shampoo adverts because it's going to offend people that are bald or something. We've all got to... I was looking at you as I said that. But look, there's nothing wrong. Look, and what's wrong with a wee drink? We've all had a bit of a tough year, and it's time to be merry.
I thought it's interesting. Listen, do you know Chris Hobbs is a police officer who comes on here pretty frequently?
Yes, I do.
And I know Chris very well indeed. And Chris and I occasionally meet in a focus group in West London, but it's actually called the Viaduct, to be perfectly honest. And he said when he was a police officer, he'd much rather that cannabis was legal and alcohol wasn't. Because people who smoke dope, he said they just used to lie around giggling. But people, the number of problems they have on a Friday, Saturday and a Sunday night, alcohol can be a terrible problem. I think we have to realise that we can be okay about alcohol and say that in its place it's a good thing and in moderation. But it's not just what you talked about liver cirrhosis and things, but it's about people beating their family up. It's about attacking the police. And I can still remember him saying, Chris saying, he said, if only they'd smoke a few joints, I'd be quite happy.
Well, you say that, but to be fair, what was a few joints years ago where it was not so high
before skunk.
THC? Yeah. Well, then that was, but now it's a different era. Some of that stuff is hallucinogenic. Some of it they see it as a gateway drug, which I think they all are gateways, aren't they? You drink, and then some people you drink, and then some people then smoke, and then you might smoke a joint, and then you might take the rest of it. And I think they're all gateways. As soon as you open the door to one of them, you're opening the door to any other opportunity. But it depends on your own mindset and whether you're somebody who potentially has an addictive personality, and whether you're able to say no, and also where you are in your life. I mean, if you're depressed or there's something going on, you might try and use that as a crutch to escape.
And my mum used to say, you always have a happy drunk or you can have an angry drunk, and it is how you cope with drinking. But I enjoy a drink, and I cope very well with it, and I enjoy it.
And I always say, don't spoil a good thing by overindulging, because then you can't have any of it. But now it is, of course, time for our Great British Debate this hour, and I'm asking, what was the worst decision the Tory party made this year? God, there are so many. It was difficult to decide which three.
I'll sit this one out, all right?
We've got a poll up as well online with this one. Was it A, getting rid of Boris Johnson? Was it B, electing Liz Truss? Or was it C, appointing Rishi Sunak? And if I've missed one that you think is even worse, just jot it down and send it via text or email or whatever. I mean, it's been a year, hasn't it? Especially in politics. And whilst many of us may want to obliterate the memory of the last year in Westminster, I mean, and it's not just that. I mean, it literally, I think this all started with Brexit, which I don't think was a bad thing, but unfortunately has been executed with Neolithic incompetence. But we couldn't help but bring you a little bit of a recap. The UK has, in 2022, had 3 prime ministers, one just for 45 days, being outlasted by a lettuce, 4 chancellors, 5 education secretaries and 2 heads of state. We've seen 1 fixed penalty notice for the former Prime Minister and 1 for our current Prime Minister, although I thought he had 2, but anyway. Wars broken out in Europe and threatened our energy security here at home, and strikes continue to sweep through the public sector. Let's see what my panel make of that. Let's have a chat with Fraser Myers and also Christine Hamilton. They join me in the screen down the line. Well, I'll start with you, Fraser. Well, OK, so I've given you a list of 3 things that you think are potentially the worst things that they did. If you were to pick out of that list, which one would you say?
Of that 3, I actually think getting rid of Liz Truss was probably a bigger mistake. Not because I particularly like her. I think she had all kinds of problems, but at least she was a bit of a gamble. And, you know, there are big stakes at the moment. There are huge problems with the economy. I wasn't entirely convinced by her strategy, but she was at least interested in getting the economy moving and growing. Now, you think about Rishi Sunak, he's all about stability, keeping things the same. And unfortunately, things are pretty dreadful right now. It's not a good status quo to want to preserve. So if you're thinking purely in terms of the Tory party's fortunes, I mean, they've made a terrible, terrible mistake in putting in someone so bland. He's not going to turn it around in a year's time, I don't think.
Yeah, it's not great, is it? I mean, honestly. So out of those, do you think that if you could pick something outside those 3, would there be something else that you would perhaps highlight as probably worse?
Yeah, I think I'm not. This alone isn't the only thing, but I think the decision to keep the ban on fracking is emblematic of a kind of broader problem for this government and actually for the whole political class. I mean, we're in the middle of the most serious energy crisis of the past 40 years, and it's primarily caused by a shortage of gas. And our government is saying that we should not exploit gas domestically. Now, that's completely insane to me. And if it's, the fracking process that we have a problem with because it's bad for the environment, well, what are we doing? We're buying gas from America, which is also extracted from fracking. Yeah. And by the time it has to be turned into liquid and then turned out of liquid into gas again, it then is even more polluting than it would have been in the first place. So it's kind of emblematic of the kind of nonsense energy policies that we've had, where we've put, the environment and climate change, I think, far too ahead of securing our supplies, keeping prices down, and we're paying a very heavy price for that now.
Interesting. Well, thank you for that, Fraser. Stay there. I'm going to pose the same question to Christine Hamilton. Christine, welcome. So the 3 options was it A, getting rid of Boris, B, getting rid of Liz Truss, or electing Liz Truss, or was it C, getting rid of... electing. No, it wasn't electing. It was appointing Rishi. He wasn't elected at all. He was appointed.
Good point.
Christine, which one of those is possibly the worst thing they did?
Well, first of all, I'm sorry I missed virtually everything Fraser said because I was having connection difficulties, so apologies, I didn't really hear any of that. I think the worst thing they did actually was none of it. It was getting rid of Liz Truss. Given that she'd been elected by their due and proper process, appointed by the members, much to the horror of the MPs, of course. They thought, my goodness me, we've got to change this. This isn't what we wanted. Never mind what Tory members want. And don't forget that people elect political party, and it is up to them to choose their members, their leaders. So people saying they were not voted for, actually, that's not the system. Although I understand why people think that. But Liz Truss had the right idea. She was going to go for growth and cut taxes. We've now got Rishi, and I think, I hope I'm wrong, but he inspires no confidence in me. And I just think the first things he did is put up tax. We're the highest tax that we have been for 70 years. It is absolutely mind-boggling. And the last Tory Conservative Prime Minister that we had was Margaret Thatcher. We've had Major, we've had Cameron, we've had May. We haven't. The Tory party has got so far to the left, they're almost indistinguishable from the Labour Party. And frankly, why not vote for the real thing? What is the point in voting Tory? Now, you might as well. I don't see the point. They don't stand for what I think are conservative values, conservative policies. So they've shot themselves in the foot, and they have only themselves when disaster approaches. I haven't answered the question, I don't think, but hope that'll do. And by the way, I did in your conversation about I've frozen again. There we are, about Christmas alcohol. So I shouted down to my husband to get me a glass. So cheers, everybody.
Cheers, Christine. So, Christine, right, if you could pick something outside, so we give you a list of 3, but there's got to be, is there anything in your view that possibly you would have put on that list, or something that you think might even be worse, another worse thing they've done?
I think I've probably mentioned it. I think the worst thing they've done is putting up taxes. I believe in a low tax economy, and that is the way to get things going, and they have just completely gone against it. So this is why I would say bring back Liz Truss.
Well, I don't think she won't come back. I don't think she wants to.
She won't come back. Of course she won't, and I'm not seriously saying bring back Liz Truss. I would like the Tories to implement her policies on tax, put it like that, rather than bring her back. No, they can't possibly. They're stuck with Rishi now.
Yeah. Well, listen, thank you so much, Christine. Cheers to you as well, and also Fraser Myers. Lovely to talk to you both. Well, if you just joined us, welcome on board. Where on earth have you been? This is GB News live on TV, online and on digital radio. Still to come, loads more. The Great British Debate this hour. I'm asking, is an extraordinary year in politics? Was it a big mistake that the Tories made? What were the 3 things? Which was the worst thing they did? Was it getting rid of Boris Johnson? Was it appointing Liz Truss? Or was it appointing Rishi Sunak? You decide. If you can think of anything worse than that, then please let me know. You know the coup. This is GB News. We'll be back in just a moment.
We are GB News, and we'd like to say thank you to each and every one of you for bringing us your conversations, for helping our great nation find its voice. We are here for you on radio, television, and online, across England, Scotland, Wales, and Northern Ireland.
It's not the BBC, you actually get your facts right.
We are proud to be GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi there, it's Stephen and Anne.
At breakfast from 6 a.m, you'll always be caught up with everything you need to know, the latest headlines, opinions and debates.
We'll bring you the good news and the bad, but most of all, we're here for you.
Remember, send in your views and let us know what you would like us to talk about.
That's because we're your news channel. And every morning at 6 a.m, it's breakfast on GB News.
Monday to Thursday on GB News, it's Bev Turner Today from 10 a.m. We're going to be here for you, our GB News family, to keep you up to date, but also make you smile.
The guy went from puberty to adultery.
And I can't wait to bring a few of my own opinions. I have no time for cultural totalitarianism. We'll engage in passionate, but always polite debate, with your thoughts and opinions at the centre of it all. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akua, Saturday and Sunday afternoons on GB News. Expect fiery debate and passionate discussion as me and my panel tackle some of the biggest topics hitting the headlines. It's a place for everyone's opinion. No one gets cancelled, but no one gets an easy ride.
Oh, she's on it today!
Be ready for conversations that are fierce, frank, and of course, fun every Saturday and Sunday afternoon from 4 p.m. on GB News, the People's Channel.
Join my show Farage, 7 p.m. till 8 p.m. Monday through Thursday, and there you will get opinion, analysis, debate, and I'll cover stories that nobody else dares to touch.
You've been cancelled. Join the club.
Oh my goodness me. And then for the last 15 minutes, talking pints. We're over a drink. We have a civilised conversation with someone. We very often disagree, but we do it in a grown-up way. Come and join me on Farage.
We are GB News, the People's Channel.
And right across the United Kingdom.
You can find us on Sky Channel 512,
Virgin Media Channel 604,
Freesat Channel 216,
Freeview Channel 236,
and YouView Channel 236.
You can also take us with you on DAB Plus Radio,
with the GB News app and at the website gbnews.uk.
We're absolutely everywhere.
Come join us on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
It's coming up to 24 minutes after 5 o'clock. This is GB News. We're live on TV, online and on digital radio. I'm Nana Akua. It's Christmas Eve. One more sleep until Christmas. But it is now time for the Great British Debate, and I'm asking, what was the worst decision that the Tory party made this year? Let's take a look at some of them.
Happy New Year. 2022 is almost upon us, and whatever the challenges that fate continues to throw in our way, and whatever the anxieties we may have about the weeks and months ahead, we can say one thing with certainty. Our position this December the 31st is incomparably better than last year.
Everyone could see what happened. Exactly. It started with reports of boozy parties in Downing Street during lockdown.
Shut up a minute! Order! Order! And they shut up and get up! Shut up a minute!
Mr. Speaker, I get it, and I will fix it. It is clearly now the will of the Parliamentary Conservative Party that there should be a new leader of that party and therefore a new Prime Minister.
It's not the BBC, you actually get your facts right.
Ms. Truss, enough already.
Wrong, wrong, wrong. I have three priorities for our economy. Growth, growth and growth.
I have therefore spoken to His Majesty the King to notify him that I am resigning as leader of the Conservative Party.
I want to pay tribute to my predecessor, Liz Truss, but some mistakes were made.
What, only then? There's loads of mistakes being made still. Well, joining me today, it's Conservative commentator Albi Amankona, broadcaster and columnist Lizzie Cundy, and also former Labour MP for Ealing North, Stephen Pound. Right, so Tory's biggest mistakes. I'm going to start with you, Albi, seeing as you're a Conservative commentator. We've got three options there. The first one, of course, was getting rid of Boris. The second one was appointing Liz Truss. And the third one was appointing Rishi Sunak.
I think the biggest mistake the Conservative Party's made this year, and there have been a number of mistakes that my party has very sadly made, for me, it's between electing Liz Truss and ousting Boris Johnson, just purely looking at where we were in the polls. So, of course, when Boris Johnson was ousted, I think we were still in the single digits behind Labour, so that's a lead that can be closed with changing events quite easily. And then, of course, throughout the short premiership of Liz Truss, we really plunged to the depths, and we saw Labour taking sort of 20, 30-point leads. So in terms of what had the biggest impact on the Conservatives' perception by the public, it's probably Liz Truss's premiership. But then what caused that premiership to happen, it was ousting Boris Johnson. So it's somewhere between those two, I would say.
So it would be ousting Boris by by deduction of what you just said. What about you, Lizzie?
Well, I think, sadly, it is Rishi. I know you're not going to like me for this, but he came in, the backstabber to Boris, then parachuted his way in to number 10. I don't know who.
On a little parachute.
On a little baby parachute, and we haven't really seen much of him since, have we? He's probably under the chair somewhere. But, I mean, literally, we are now in the political wilderness. It is like there is a cigarette paper between Labour and the Tory party, and we've got to go back to what Conservatives really mean. And sadly, under Rishi, he is so liberal. He's the lib-lab man, and he's such a...
He's a lib-lab man.
He's a fishy character. I don't like anyone that backstabs someone, then has their promotional Slick Alice video, and frankly, he's not to be seen. We haven't seen him, and look what's gone on since... He's been in power.
Well, he had that suntan stuff, didn't he? That said, don't get red. Because obviously then you go Labour, wouldn't you? So that was his thing. And it's obviously been... You can't just package something up and do it the next day.
No.
It takes a couple of months to create the branding, the thing, the package. So he's obviously got it ready for Rishi sunblock, I think it was.
Yeah.
Stephen?
Well, I really shouldn't be intruding on private grief. But I will.
Go on. Go on. Do what you can.
I think the two worst mistakes, firstly, the botched Brexit. We made an absolute dog's breakfast of Brexit. And we could have done better. We have to do better. We're suffering. Northern Ireland, forget it. Absolute disaster.
But would you say the botched
Brexit.
Botched Brexit was partly to do with the fact that there was so much opposition from within the actual party itself, and then opposition from the Labour Party and all the others who wouldn't really allow it to happen? But the objections that
I don't. I mean, obviously, Theresa May didn't command the House at the time. It was quite agonising. I think she's fundamentally a good and decent woman who's incidentally grown in stature since she left. The other thing, and we've not touched on it, I think, was listening to Matt Hancock over the COVID thing. We suffered more deaths than most countries, more deaths than Germany, more deaths than Sweden. We got it wrong on COVID. And we were one of the last people to emerge from it, and we're still suffering to this day.
That might not be. I mean, there might be other factors that.
Undoubtedly there are.
I mean, there was obviously we had the fact that we probably locked down a little bit too late, and then it went on too long. And then we had other factors. And also, as a society, our country and the people within it aren't as healthy as some of the other countries. For example, we had high levels of obesity and things like that. And so, therefore, our comorbidities...
Germany? Have you been to Germany lately?
But they're quite healthy, and their health system as well is very good. I mean,
I'll give you that. I think we panicked. And I think if you actually look at the PPE procurement policy, that was where we really... On the other hand, there's people like Kate Bingham, the one who actually did the vaccination program. Absolute heroine. What we do good, we do very, very good indeed.
But that was down to Brexit. We got the rollout. That was down to Boris, wasn't it?
Of course it was.
It was because we were able to move more agilely because of Brexit. You know that, Steve.
And look, another reason why I'm not keen on Rishi is the lockdown crisis that we were in and still in, giving furlough willy-nilly to companies like Victoria Beckham's company. I mean,
and that PPI stuff
really
as well.
I thought you were going to say Victoria's Secret.
But Boris Johnson, Rishi Sunak wasn't Prime Minister when lockdown policies were implemented. It was Boris Johnson that was Prime Minister. So I think if we're going to label blame at Rishi Sunak for lockdown policy, let's also level it at Boris Johnson as well. And Liz Truss was part of that cabinet too.
Liz is talking about the financial side of it, which he was in charge of at the time. But we are being paid back for that now.
Signed off by the Prime Minister.
Yeah, but he was the Chancellor, so Boris, like your role is Chancellor, so you're going to deal with the finances. The Prime Minister will then take your lead.
Yeah.
But I would just say at that time, Liz Truss, Boris Johnson, and Rishi Sunak were all part of the cabinet that implemented those policies. So let's look at them as a cabinet. If we're going to be critical, let's be critical of all of them because they were all part of that decision-making process.
Yeah, but then you could then blame the Labour Party because they went along with a lot of the policies and in fact they would have gone further as well. So, for example,
where's the evidence of that?
Well, Keir Starmer, for example, he wanted to lock down harder and faster, didn't he? So Keir Starmer was actually advocating it, and they also supported many of the moves that the Conservative Party put forward. So they didn't provide any objection. So if you're going to do that, then you also have to blame.
And another mistake Rishi's done. Why? Who's our Chancellor now? Jeremy Hunt.
Who stabilised the economy? The pound's back to pre-crisis levels.
He came last in the Prime Minister when they were doing the debates. He was like the last. No one wanted him, and that was another mess the Conservatives did. Those long,
the FTSE's up at 74.
hustings.
You know, we're 113 against the dollar. We're much stronger against the euro. Say what you will about Jeremy Hunt. He has actually brought stability to the market.
And remember what he believed in.
What he's done is...
Well, no, he's done slightly better.
No, he's returned
for the FTSE to be in the mid-70s.
What he's done is
pretty good.
What he's done is returned us to a comfortable status quo that we're used to. So,
well, that took some doing.
Very small, yes, but high tax.
Nana, I'm being nice about a Conservative.
Yeah.
Work with me.
Oh, that's true.
Well, let's just remember what he...
Not him.
Remember what he thought on COVID with the... he believed in the Chinese race.
He also didn't prepare at all. He didn't prepare us for a pandemic at all. He prepared us for some other sort of virus, like a flu-type virus, but he didn't prepare us for this kind of...
Well, it is a flu-type virus.
No, but he didn't do it properly, like a proper...
But the Tory party have lost their way. As I said, we're like in a political wilderness. Me, for one, I don't know who I vote for. I never thought I'd say that. But they really have lost what they mean. They're like light blue. They're no longer the dark, true Conservative colour. And that, I think, is down from David Cameron to start with.
What do you think? Who are you going to vote for?
I'll be voting Conservative, absolutely.
Are you going to change?
Possibly. Yeah, I am.
Well, in Australia, they call it teal, don't they?
No. Just what are you going to vote for? Labour again?
I'll vote Labour.
Yeah.
My dad would turn. He's great.
Do then. Right, you're with me. I'm Nana Akua. This is GB News on TV, online and on digital radio. Coming up, it's time for a little bit of festive fun with our Christmas quiz. Lizzie and Stephen will be showing off their rapping skills, and we eat Mr. Christmas. Yes, we do. But first, let's get your latest news headlines.
Nana, thank you. It's 5:33. I'm Tatiana Sanchez in the GB newsroom. Protesters have clashed again today with police in Paris as a vigil was being held at a Kurdish cultural centre where a gunman killed 3 people and left several injured. Police used tear gas to try to disperse the crowds. It's after riots broke out yesterday in the wake of the attack. Members of the community have gathered this morning close to where the incident happened. A 69-year-old man who was already known to police is in custody in relation to the shooting. Rail passengers have been rushing to get the last trains before Christmas Eve services come to a halt due to strike action. Heavy traffic's also expected as a result. Travellers heading abroad are also being warned of delays as Border Force officials walk out for a second day. Disruption at UK airports was brought under control yesterday as the military stepped in to replace workers on strike. Scotland's rail operators warning strikes will severely limit services, with people being advised to only travel if absolutely necessary. Meanwhile, there's disruption to Christmas deliveries for many as postal workers represented by the Communication Workers Union continue to walk off the job over paid jobs and conditions. Royal Mail employees began their industrial action on Friday ahead of Christmas. Wiltshire Police have confirmed a 4-year-old boy has died following a serious medical incident at Longleat Centre Parks this morning. The death is not being treated as suspicious. Holidaymakers said the swimming pool there had been closed due to the incident. Forecasters are predicting a white Christmas for the Highlands with unsettled weather for the rest of the UK. A yellow weather warning for snow and ice is in place for most of the Highlands from tomorrow night until 6 p.m. on Boxing Day. Meanwhile, downpours are forecast in most other places over the Christmas weekend. The Environment Agency has issued 66 alerts for possible flooding in England. TV, online and DAB+ radio. This is GB News.
Monday to Thursday, 9 p.m. till 11 p.m. Join me, Dan Wootton. I'll bring you the sharpest takes and hottest debates. Do you not believe in prison?
I don't believe in prisons.
I'm completely stunned. I guarantee you there'll be no spin, no bias, no censorship.
I actually was personally quite offended by it.
And no reason to go to bed.
So I guess they've always been quite woke.
That's Dan Wootton tonight on TV, radio and online. Monday to Thursday from 9 p.m. till 11 p.m. on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Every morning from 6 o'clock, we'll wake you up with GB News Breakfast with all the stories you didn't know from the night before.
So whether it's serious news, entertainment, or your own views from all over our great nation, we're here to kick off your day with a smile.
The national media should be reflecting and reporting what's happening here.
You will notice the northwestern accents.
Whether you're with us on TV, radio, or online, every morning, it's breakfast from 6 a.m. Hope you can join us.
Join me every Sunday at 6 p.m. for Gloria Meets. In exclusive interviews, I'll be finding out who our politicians really are and what they really think.
It's something that you would never want anyone to suffer.
I didn't know what channels there were. I didn't think I'd be believed.
I must have weighed about 7 stone and I'm 5'8".
My instincts was to sort of cover this up. I mean, clearly that was a mistake.
Join me every Sunday at 6 p.m. on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hello there, it's Eamon Holmes here from Breakfast on GB News. We're not just on your television and your screens, you know.
We're on DAB plus digital radio, so you can listen to your favourite shows on the move.
If you've not yet listened to GB News Radio, it's very simple. We're on your radio player and TuneIn apps, on your smart speaker, phone or tablet, or online at gbnews.uk.
Take us with you wherever you go. GB News Radio.
You never have to miss a moment of the People's Channel.
My name's Tom Harwood and join me 9:30 a.m. every weekday for The Briefing, your one-stop shop for everything you need to know about what's going on in politics today.
I wonder if this is a deal that might need to be like the biscuits in this factory, twice baked.
Is there not an opportunity here to win out against the extremes?
Tom Harwood, GB News.
What are you going to do about it?
Things should have been done differently, and they certainly are being done differently.
Don't miss it. The Briefing with me, Tom Harwood, 9:30 Monday to Friday on GB News.
Hello, I'm Simon Evans. Join me on GB News for Headliners at 11 p.m, where I'll be joined by two of the country's top comedians as we take a look at tomorrow's newspapers tonight. If it's a big story, we'll be covering it, I guarantee, but we'll also have some fun along the way. That's GB News Headliners at 11 p.m. We won't put you to sleep, unlike some of the other paper review shows out there. So join us, 11 p.m, 7 nights a week.
Good afternoon. If you've just joined me, where have you been? It's just coming up to 39 minutes after 5 o'clock. I'm Nana. This is GB News. We're live on TV, online and on digital radio. Right, now, for most of us, turkey with all the trimmings, pulling crackers and eating too much Christmas pudding is a once-a-year event. There's some people do it all the time. But not for our next guest. Andy Park, better known as Mr. Christmas, literally celebrates the big day every day. And Andy joins me now. Hello, Andy, Mr. Christmas. Andy, you need to grow.
We love you to bits.
Lovely to see you, Andy.
I need to grow a beard.
Yeah, where's your beard gone? Have you got a stick on one?
I've never had a beard, and I don't want a beard because it's too
really
hot. Hate him.
So talk to me then. Christmas, you've been celebrating it all the time. How long have you been celebrating it for? And is it like every day you're celebrating this thing?
I've been celebrating Christmas every single day for 30 years now. Full turkey roast every day. I've got open presents for myself, what I wrap up every day, which I bought the previous day. I write cards to myself, put them in the letterbox. It's too much to spend on stamps and that, so I deliver myself to myself. I watch Queen's speech every single day. God rest her soul, I will still watch it this year, followed by the King's speech, of course. And I just enjoy my day. I pull crackers all day and party poppers, invite the neighbours round. I just have a good time. Yeah, why not? We live once.
Have you got a significant other then, like a partner or something?
Not anymore, no.
Not anymore.
Not with them party poppers.
I know. But yeah, like I say, I have a great time. And it's the sort of thing that I never want to stop doing. I hope the next 30 years are going to be better than this 30 years just gone.
Yeah. And what about your children? Do you have children?
I've got a daughter and I've got 3 grandsons, fantastic grandson. And believe it or not, I've got a great-granddaughter as well. Quite new to the family. Just a few months old. Do I look like a great-granddad?
You don't look old enough, Mr. Christmas.
Oh, Nana, thank you.
No.
I
So when is
really
that?
wanted you to say that.
So when it is actually Christmas, so like tomorrow's actually Christmas, is there anything special in addition to all the Christmassy things that you do, or is it just the same as every other Christmas day?
Well, the doors will be wide open, Nana. Everyone's welcome in my house for a mince pie, a glass of sherry, to see the Christmas in. I love company. I love people coming to see me. There'll be a present under the tree and all that stuff. So that's about the only thing I do different. But Boxing Day comes, it's all back to normal. But I still get the odd person come in because they know they're going to get a free box of mince pies put in front of them. They'll be round, knocking on my door, as usual. But,
of course.
They're welcome.
And
in
it's gotta be-
fact,
In
fact, Nana, I'd love you to come to Christmas dinner. One day in the year. How about that? Any day you choose.
All right. Well, I was going to say I'm on air tomorrow, but any day I choose.
Every day's Christmas.
Well, whereabout are you? Not literally, but like what part of the world?
I'm in Melksham, not too far from Bath. Oh, we'll get you here, all right. We give you a good day, nice present under the tree for you, nice Christmas dinner, and you'll be meeting some nice people.
Oh, that's so lovely. Thank you very much, Mr. Christmas. Do you mind if I turn it down? I'm joking. I love it. No, it sounds wonderful, Mr. Christmas. And finally, your Christmas song. There's got to be. Is there one specific song, or is it just the traditional "Wish You a Merry Christmas"?
Well, are you talking about the traditional songs or my songs?
Your song. What's your song for Christmas? What's your one?
Well, I released a record. It's called "It's Christmas Every Day," and it's getting played on radio all up and down the country at the moment. And I've had a few television views on it as well. It's Christmas every day, so if you see it, take a listen. But I do like the traditional songs. Slade, The Wizard. I love that one by Gilbert O'Sullivan, Christmas song. I'm not dreaming of a white Christmas. You know that one? Lonely This Christmas. I like that one.
It's Christmas.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the one. But,
Well, Mr. Christmas, it's lovely to talk to you, Mr. Christmas. Thank you very much. I wish we had a clip of your song.
Don't tempt him.
We'll have to try and find. Can you give us a short bell of it? Just like maybe 10 seconds of it or so?
It's Christmas every day. Everybody celebrate. Everybody, yeah, you know, that's it. Every day.
Yeah.
Christmas every day. Come on, Liz, let's hear you sing.
Come on, give him a round of applause for that.
Thank you. God bless you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Christmas. We love you. Happy Christmas.
Thanks, Nana, and the same to you and all your listeners. God bless you and a Merry Christmas!
Yeah! Mr. Christmas obviously had quite a few to put it down.
Mr. Christmas had a few. This Christmas.
But as ever, this show is nothing without you and your views. Let's welcome our Great British Voices, their opportunity to tell us what they're doing during this Christmas festive period. Alan joins me now from Grimsby. Alan, where's your Christmas tree? Where's your Christmas spirit? What's going on? What are you up to for Christmas?
Happy Christmas to you all, you and your panel, yeah? That one for me. Yeah. A quiet Christmas, yeah? But you've given me a great opportunity to wish you all a Merry Christmas, but not only you, but everyone in the country, whether they're in England, Ireland, Scotland or Wales. I hope they have a really cracking good time.
Well, thank you so much, Alan. And Merry Christmas to you as well, panel. Wishing Merry Christmas.
Happy Christmas. Happy Christmas.
Happy Christmas.
You only sing when you're fishing.
No, that's a lovely Alan in Grimsby. He's been such a great British voice, and so can you, by the way. If you want to become a great British voice, then just send us an email, gbviews@gbnews.uk. We'd love to get you on board and hear your thoughts. But right now, it's time for a little game. If you've just tuned in, welcome aboard to my panel. So joining me now is Lizzie Cundy. Lizzie, press your buzzer. Also, Albie Amankona, press your buzzer. And Stephen Pound, press your buzzer. So this game is called Are You a Know-It-L? Yeah, thank you. I thought of that all by myself. I will take the credit. And in it, I'm going to ask our panellists, and of course you at home, following a sort of... I'll give you a sort of quote, and then you have to work out the political figure or someone in the Christmas film. Or panellists, are you ready? So you've got to work out what the quote, who said what quote, and hit your buzzers when you know the answer. All right. So here is your first quote. I think I might have a multiple choice here, or I might make it really difficult for you. All right. I will unite our country, not with words, but with action. Was it Hugh Grant in Love Actually? Or Rishi Sunak's first speech as Prime Minister? Lizzie Cundy.
I think it's Rishi.
She thinks it's Rishi Sunak.
Hugh Grant.
Hugh Grant. The answer is... It was actually Rishi Sunak. I don't know. Rishi Sunak. They've written two things as Rishi Sunak, and then it's got something else there. Hugh Grant said, among other things in Love Actually speech, we may be a small country, but we're a great one too. So that was that's what he said.
Because his character is based on Keir Starmer.
Is it? What in Love Actually?
Yeah.
I thought it was Tony Blair.
God.
No, this is easy to confuse.
Oh, yes. Bless guess.
Right, yes, OK, right. So, next quote. I am the Grinch that stole Christmas.
Mick Lynch.
OK, so so what I didn't say is if you speak before the buzzer, then you'd be disqualified from this.
Was
it Mick Lynch at a press conference about rail strikes or Jim Carrey in the 2000 film?
Jim Carrey.
I think that was Lizzie on there first.
Well, I do think it is Mick Lynch, I'll be honest.
It's actually Jim Carrey.
But it is Jim Carrey.
But you were totally wrong anyway. Who do you think, Albie?
Is it both of them?
No, it was Jim Carrey. Listen, it was either or. She got it wrong. What is wrong with you? He got it wrong. You know the answer. You don't get anything for that. Nobody gets anything for stupidity. No, OK, sorry. It was actually Jim Carrey.
You don't know much about politics.
Who even said, I'm sorry for stealing Christmas. Mick Lynch, on the other hand, insisted I'm not the Grinch.
But we all know he is, don't we? Straight out of Dickens.
So there you go. All right, question 3. OK, so who said this? I'm in love, and I don't care who knows it. Was it...
Matt Hancock.
A, Matt Hancock on his new romance, or was it Buddy in Elf? OK, so it was... You're disqualified again because you didn't... Albie.
Was it Buddy and Elf?
It's Matt Hancock.
Do you think it's Buddy and Elf? Let's see. The answer is Buddy and Elf. No. Yes, it was. You keep getting them wrong. You buzz in early, you get it wrong. Matt Hancock talked a lot about love in 2022, but he did care who knew, at least when his affair was first revealed on I'm a Celebrity. He said of the news leak that exposed the romance, I messed up and I fessed up.
No.
Oh, God. It's the same person that brought your hands, face, space. You can hear it there. I messed up, I fessed up, I resigned, and it's no excuse. Right, but I fell in love. Right, quote number 4. That's Matt Hancock. Right, quote number 4. Play it along at home. Work hard, lad, and one day your life will be as solid as this very building. Was it A, Boris Johnson encouraging a pupil at Downing Street's Children's Climate Change Conference? Or was it Sam the Eagle as Scrooge's headmaster in the Muppets Christmas Carol? I don't know who was there. Was it you first, Albie?
I think it might have been.
Albie.
And I think it may have been Sam the Eagle.
Yeah.
He said Sam the Eagle is the correct answer. Yes. Well done, Albie. Give him a round of applause. I think that's 1 point.
2 points.
2 points.
2
2.
I've got 2.
How have I got?
You haven't got any.
Very competitive at Christmas.
Right, and your final question. Heart, this is your 5th question. Heart pounding, throat thickening, absolutely can't swallow. All the usual symptoms. Was it Chris Whitty talking about COVID symptoms, or Iris Simpkins in The Holiday? Albie.
Iris Simpkins in The Holiday.
Yeah. It was Iris Simpkins in The Holiday. The character played by Kate Winslet complained about the physical symptoms her ex made her experience. Round of applause. All right, I've got a bonus round.
You got the ball,
just in case it was a tie, but there's just no point to it. But we might
won.
Come on.
See if you can at least get 1.
Come on.
All right, so you can... OK, and now it's time for a special bonus non-political round. Who said the following? Everyone in this family hates me. Was it Prince Harry in the middle of therapy session on his and Meghan's new Netflix show, or was it Kevin McAllister in... Unfortunately, you've been disqualified for...
It was Kevin.
Kevin.
Let's see. It was Kevin.
Yeah, it was Kevin.
So you got disqualified because you pressed too soon.
I did. It was Kevin.
It was Kevin.
I'm sorry if I ejaculated prematurely.
All right, well, listen, if you just joined me, where on earth you've been? We're towards the end of the show. I am back tomorrow at the same time, 3 o'clock, an extra hour. Joining me today, if you've just tuned in, it's Albie Amonkona, who's a Conservative commentator, Lizzie Cundy, broadcaster and columnist, and former Labour MP for Ealing North, Stephen Pound. Right, I've got a little bit of a quiz for you now, because first, I've got a special rapping game, OK? So any of you guys are pretty good at rapping?
I'm pretty hopeless, I'll be honest.
Is this Storms?
Not the singing kind.
I'm bad at both types of rapping.
All right, well, listen, I've got some gifts for you, and I'd like to see how well you rap. Right, here we go. 1 for you, Albie. 1 for you.
Hang on a sec, this is Harry Kane's penalty.
1 for you.
It's just landed.
Footballs are the hardest thing to rap.
Right, are you ready? How long should we give them?
Oh, man.
OK, you've got 1 minute, and your time starts now. All right, well, here you've got Albie. He's got the yellow ball. He's wrapping quite nice. He's got the paper ready. Steve's gone for a different technique. He's got the ball in the centre. He's actually cutting it through. Albie's just tearing now. He can't be bothered. Because he's been quite graceful with her. She's got robin wrapping paper, which I think is quite good thing. They have about a minute. So far, 21 seconds. So we're coming to the last time. Very nice. Albie seems to have got a handle on it. He's also got the sellotape ready, which is not something they've all done it. Sellotape ready. Lizzie's started hers. Looks quite good. Albie's 30 seconds down. So far, Stephen, yours is looking the best so far. He's dropped his sellotape, though, sadly he's going to have to pick that up. Lizzie is, well, that's nice. Is that, so use some sellotape. OK, so you've got 10 seconds. 10, 9, come on, Lizzie. 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Dun, dun, dun. Right, so I'm going to test these. OK, so... No, before we go. Stephen, chuck me that ball. If it all falls apart... No, this is opening up. That's OK, he's thrown it to me, it's opening up. Let's have a look. Next.
That's pretty good.
Quite safe, quite solid. Lizzie?
A little bit.
Lizzie's edging. Round of applause to Albie. Albie, well
done, Albie.
And the
Thank
prize
you very
is
much.
that plate of mince pies.
Oh, thank you. I love mince pies.
Albie, can you come to mine later? I've got a load of presents to wrap.
Yeah. So listen, guys. Well, listen, before we go, I'm going to find out from you the worst thing about Christmas. And then we'll talk about the best thing, the worst thing for you.
The worst thing at Christmas, apart from the clearing up and doing the dishwasher up the next day, possibly missing loved ones that aren't no longer with me. I'm no longer with my dad and my best mate, Wanda Walker, who had cystic fibrosis. So I always lift my glass to absent friends and family.
Absolutely. And you, Albie, what do you do?
I would probably say, other than that, it can be a very difficult time of year for people that have sadly lost people. But I would say maybe on something a little bit more light, that feeling of being too full that you can't even move. That can be terrible if you eat too much.
The worst thing about Christmas is that glorious feeling of actually community and coming together melts like the snow afterwards. If only that would last a little bit longer.
Well, we'll take the most of that. And also, I've got some panellists who have joined me in their homes. Christine Hamilton and also Fraser Myers. I've got to say a big thank you to them as well. So Christine, your Christmas will begin now, pretty much. No more. You don't have to do anything on GBNews for a bit. So what are you going to do? What's the next thing you're about to do after this?
I'm waiting for a knock on the door. Well, they won't knock. They'll just barge in. My lot, my family, my brother, sister-in-law, nephew, niece, husband, 7-year-old, 5-year-old, 2-year-old, etc. They're all trying to get here. They've been skiing. And in theory, they should be in the air right now. And because whether they'll be able to get out of Heathrow, I don't know. So we've got everything ready. I've got the turkey.
Wonderful.
All down. The turkey's all ready to bang in the oven. And if they don't get here, well...
You have to eat it all yourself. eat it and drink it all. Fraser, what about you? Fraser?
Straight after this, I'll be hitting the booze and I'll have a traditional Chinese Christmas duck.
Oh, lovely.
Tomorrow with the whole family over.
Well, listen, thank you so much, guys, for joining us and for taking part in the show. We really appreciate that. Yeah. Oh, Albie, this is your prize.
Oh, well done,
thank you.
It's always football. You definitely deserve it.
I could have kept that.
Well, listen, it's been fun. Thank you very much to Lizzie Cundy, Albie Amonkona and Stephen Pound as well for joining me live in the studio. And there's a huge thank you to you at home for your company. But do not go anywhere because we've got still so much more in GB News. And I am back tomorrow for Christmas Day. I've got a fabulous panel joining me. I'll be speaking to Keith Prince and also the wonderful divorce coach. She'll be talking about all of that. Well, listen, I look forward to seeing you tomorrow at 3 o'clock, a special hour extra, and I've got a smashing monologue that I hope you'll enjoy. We'll also broadcast the King's Speech live here at GB News. Thank you so much for your company. I shall see you tomorrow. Enjoy.
Happy Christmas.
Monday to Thursday, 9 p.m. till 11 p.m. Join me, Dan Wootton. I'll bring you the sharpest takes and hottest debates. Do you not believe in prison?
I don't believe in prisons.
I'm completely stunned. I guarantee you there'll be no spin, no bias, no censorship.
I actually was personally quite offended by it.
And no reason to go to bed. So I guess they've always been quite woke. That's Dan Wootton tonight on TV, radio and online. Monday to Thursday from 9 p.m. till 11 p.m. on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Every morning from 6 o'clock, we'll wake you up with GB News Breakfast with all the stories you didn't know from the night before.
So whether it's serious news, entertainment, or your own views from all over our great nation, we're here to kick off your day with a smile.
The national media should be reflecting and reporting what's happening here.
You will notice the northwestern accents. Whether you're with us on TV, radio, or online, every morning, it's breakfast from 6 a.m. Hope you can join us.
Join me every Sunday at 6 p.m. for Gloria Meets. In exclusive interviews, I'll be finding out who our politicians really are and what they